And welcome, everybody. Happy Saturday. How's everyone out there doing?
Hello. How's everybody? And how are you, Crumb?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good here. I think we lost Ken. We'll have to get Ken back. But that's okay.
No.
We have a few things. We have a few things before we get started here. So yeah, we have an interesting little show today.
That's cool.
Here. Letting Ken know he can pop back in. So we have an interesting show today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Hopefully Ken can get back on soon because want to get his opinion on a few things. There's been a lot of stuff that's been happening recently. A lot of I don't know, some of the similar crap that we had to deal with when we invited a certain individual to our convention. And all of that wonderful stuff. So I wanted to get Ken's opinion on some of the stuff that's been going on, like mostly the what you would call it, the mental side of things, right?
Okay.
Because if you look at it, I mean, if you look at it, it's like a lot of these people they have similar issues, right? Like they have similar problems. And that's basically the outline of the show today. We're going to be talking about that. We might have another guest on in a little bit. Yeah, as Blazefire says Ken's internet is wiggity whack. Without further ado, now that we've stalled for enough time, here is our special guest of the day, Ken Jennings.
Mr. Jennings.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome back.
Not too bad.
And I'm doing good.
Yeah. I understand that you wanted to play a little something for us before we continue. So
yeah,
floor is yours.
Audio stuff crashed right before you guys went live, so that's why I'm a little delayed in getting on.
This term for a long-handled gardening tool can also mean an immoral pleasure seeker. And what's a hoe? No. Whoa!
Very nice. So yeah, before we dig into the topic here, why don't you tell people why you got that little jingle? You're planning on doing something, weren't you?
Yes. So and I was been talking about this on the farms too. Is the goal is to eventually start up doing videos, kind of doing the similar types of analysis on different characters from the farms. So the popular ones. I'm gonna focus on the wee boars first and kind of branch out from there, just to kind of get my impression because I've been following it for long enough. I feel I can give a decent opinion on things.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
See where it goes.
Right on. All right. Well, I mean, so yeah, we were just explaining the topic today, just overall. So we saw with Anime Matsuri, we saw a lot of the same characters coming out that came after us for Kitchener Comic Con. A lot of the same people. So I wanted to get your opinion on some of the stuff that's been going on. So, like, from because I don't know how much time you've had to look into these people or like review these people, etc. But there's been a lot of individuals that keep coming up, and they seem to have this really big obsession with Vic Mignogna and what conventions he goes to and the people that run him and run those said conventions. So, like, I mean, just like as an overall thing here, like, what are your thoughts? It's been well over a year at this point. Been well over a year, and you see the same people that don't live in the same, like, even sometimes in the same country, going after conventions, going after things like that. What's your overall view of that?
I feel it's a little bit of an abuse of, your ability to interact with people. There's a difference between, I think, boycotting or saying I'm not going somewhere, and then doing everything you can to absolutely undermine something like, a convention or an event or a signing event or anything like that. I feel it's inappropriate in a way. That might just be my personal opinion on that, but I think it goes a little too far in ways.
No, I
year after year.
completely agree. No, I completely agree. I mean, it's like one of those weird things. Like, I mean, Anime Matsuri basically had to be put to the grindstone and get a petition circulating before they would agree to have Vic. I mean, as far as I know, the posting was a little bit vague. Like the posting by the con organizer was a little bit vague as to if that was a turning point or not. I'm sure it helped, and it's certainly nice to have a petition out there showing like 10,000 people are supporting Vic going to conventions, and you have like maybe 10 people that are vehemently against it. So yeah, I find it so strange because as soon as Anime Matsuri announced and confirmed that Vic Mignogna was going, like LJ Montello was like the first one out of the gates to say something about it. It's,
Really? Wow.
Yeah. No, she was the first one to tweet about it. Basically, very, very weird. So what Ken? I want to get your opinion on LJ Montello because I know she's been a key figurehead in a lot of different stuff, and a lot of people have been saying the same sort of thing about her. But I wanted to get it from a person in the mental profession industry. I don't even know if that's a thing. In the mental profession, what is your opinion on someone like an LJ Montello?
I personally believe that she has some sort of mental health disorder. I think it's been hinted at, or there's been some evidence that's come out about that. And I would be shocked if there wasn't. I don't remember where I saw it, but I remember seeing it. Is there something about her having some sort of mental health disorder specifically she's been diagnosed with? And, as far as her affidavit goes and whether or not she signed it under penalty of perjury and all that fun stuff, and whether or not it was valid because of sound mind and all that fun stuff.
Ooh, that's a very interesting loophole if you think about it.
Well, I'm not sure as far as the legal side of it.
Mm-hmm.
If just having a mental health disorder would disqualify you from sound mind, or would that require the intervention of like a therapist or a psychologist to come in and say, well, this person is competent to sign up an affidavit on this or not? Something along those lines.
I'm not a notary, so I don't, and I'm not like a lawyer, so I don't know how these things work. But you'd have to think because it's been talked about recently that, and I think that Erica McCord actually mentioned this. So just giving credit to her because it was not coming from my mind. That the defense never seemed to vet any of the affidavits that were submitted. I mean, sure, 17 affidavits, great, awesome. But the fact of the matter that you're submitting affidavits that are clearly coming from people who either are irrelevant to the case, have nothing of relevance to say towards it. So like either they're not directly involved, or they're peripherally involved and they didn't actually have anything to say. It's just more of a character witness. And then you have people who are legitimately have some sort of mental disorder that have not been cleared by a professional, saying that this person's telling the truth or this person's like mentally capable of telling the truth. So it's so strange to point to these. And I mean, like, and when you had Ron Toye on before, and he's talked about it, that it was what was his wording? I don't want to misquote him. Basically, if anyone had lied about if anyone had lied on their affidavits, then they should then fuck them. They deserve everything that they get in the extent of the law, something to that effect. So,
yep,
close enough to that, I think.
Yeah, close enough to that. Like, I don't understand why you would include them if you hadn't verified the information first.
Or they're thought on that, you know, as far as why you would do that.
Yeah,
it kind of, at that point in time, I think it was more about the collection of information that most benefits them. And, you know, if we look at how much money was spent on their side and on their defense of the case, you know, if you've got people making statements and you go to them as a lawyer, hey, will you sign this document? Will you write something up? Do you really care or have time at this point to verify that? Do you want to?
well, and I guess that kind of begs the questions, like, what was the motivation behind it? Really, it's because when you look at it, it's like, well, if you don't care if it's a truthful affidavit or not, then I guess you don't really care about spending the time and money to vet the information either. But it was very curious that people had taken other people's accounts. So like Stan Dolan, for example, and Erica McCord both had people talking on their behalf. Montello, like Lynn Hunt, she wasn't even in the country, and she was validating, quote unquote, from third party notebook information that she had got later on. It's none of it really made sense. So it's like, and people are taking this information as if it's gospel, and they're going to conventions and they're saying, look at this, and no one is really reviewing this information. I mean, I can't remember who the heck it was. I think it was someone who's actually involved in this whole like debacle crap. And I'm not saying directly, I'm just saying in terms of shit spraying. Jesse Pridemore recently came out accusing somebody. I can't remember his name. I think it was Shane something. Forgive me if I'm mistaking it for somebody else. But she recently came out and Me Too'd somebody about in the industry, whatever. And he came out and basically said, like, absolutely not. None of this is true. And, you know, people are too lazy to look into this information beyond someone just making a claim. I think it's very true. Like,
yeah,
I'm curious as to how we've gotten there as a society. Like, do you see any, like, Ken, from your professional opinion, do you see any reason as to why people have just kind of, I guess, regressed into just believing whatever someone tells them? Yeah, Shane Dawson, naughty one, says. Yeah, Shane Dawson, so I did get that right. Did we lose you, Ken?
Ken looks like he's still there.
I think he passed out.
Oh, good God. Maybe the dogs ate him. Man's best friend when they're not hungry.
So apparently, this is a very interesting one too. This kind of ties into the topic at hand. So Shane Dawson was apparently good buddies with Jeffree Star. So I've been seeing, like, I don't know much, like, full disclosure, I don't know much about the Jeffree Star situation and what's going on right now at all. However, there are a lot of parallels of what's happening between that and what's happening with Vic and what's happening with other people and canceling, etc. So,
sort of cut you off, especially in the last 2 weeks alone, for goodness sakes.
Well,
across genre, it's like, Wow.
Well, that's what I mean. It's very, very weird. So I'm seeing a lot of stuff about Jeffree Star, and I mean, to be fair, Jeffree Star was kind of a shock personality before he became who he is now. I mean, same thing with Jenna Marbles, like, and she's gone off the platform. Same
I
thing,
heard about that today, actually. Yeah. She completely quit her whole YouTube career or something like that, right?
yeah, she did.
And she moved all the way down to the wonderfulness known as California Hollywood, and she picked up her life, moved down there, and she was part of the whole blue checkmark Twitter fan club, etc., etc., etc. Then all of a sudden, one day, the crosshairs turned on her, and she wanted to please everybody just by canceling her career.
It's so weird. It's so weird because, like, you look back 10 years ago, you look back 10 years ago, YouTube was such a different place.
Oh yes,
like
definitely.
The world was a different place. This ties into
Yeah.
conventions were a different place. It's so strange because to get big on YouTube back then, you had to basically drop gamer words or, you know, dress up in blackface or like do something ridiculous. Like PewDiePie, that's how he got notable. Like Jeffree Star,
PewDiePie.
Jenna Marbles, all of them got big by doing that, and they eventually got more PG.
Yeah,
because that's just the way the platform went. They kind of forced into it.
Yep.
But like as far as I know, like Jeffree Star, I don't know much about him now.
Yeah.
Other than he makes makeup, and he's kind of like a drag queen. Like I don't know.
I'm familiar with a little bit of their work, but just a little bit.
Yeah. So it's so strange. But to see Shane Dawson get called out, and then he basically puts it out on blast, saying like people need to do their due diligence. Like they got to stop believing the first thing that comes across their timeline. Like that to me was really striking. And it harkens back to the Vic lawsuit because everyone when Vic first filed his lawsuit, and I said this a long time ago. I said this is going to be the beginning of the end of Me Too.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he got brought out and paraded out in front of the crowd and he fought back, not only did he fight back, he got back 2 conventions. He got salvaged a career out of it. Yeah. You look at all this other stuff. Look at every one of the quote unquote Me Too's that have been happening recently.
Yeah.
And you see all the lawsuits that are filing.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the first couple big ones that came out. I think Justin Bieber was the first big name recently.
Okay.
Justin Bieber filing a lawsuit. There was somebody else that was right after Justin Bieber filing a lawsuit. Yeah. Shane Dawson filing a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Everybody said it was stupid for Vic to file a lawsuit. What's everyone doing now?
They're filing a lawsuit. Mm-hmm.
And look at all of these people. Look at the Jesse Pridemores that were involved with the Vic situation and blasting off about that and whatever else. And they're involved in their own lawsuits now.
Yeah.
Because they said something stupid.
Yep. And as I mentioned before, very briefly to the two of us off camera, in the wrestling industry, there's a whole bunch of quote unquote Me Too / speak out that's going on. Yeah. Did you see how many that's coming out in the last few weeks?
It's so weird because it's mostly in the British circuit.
Yeah.
It's mostly in the British circuit.
Yeah.
And James Andrew Morrison says that's what they don't realize. SJWs are cannibalistic. They eat their own as readily as anyone else. That's a very interesting thing, too. For all of the lawsuits that I saw, popping up, there were so many apologies. Not even apologies for anything specific.
First rule.
But blanket apologies.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah.
And Naughty One says, Echelon Gaming did a very interesting dive into the Me Too's, showing some of the Social Blade information of the women making the accusations.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Popcorn Planet guy, he filed a lawsuit over his stuff and walked away a very, very large settlement from the business he started. I'm telling you, we're going to see a lot of settlements out of this. I am absolutely sure we're going to see settlements. The one thing that was weird about the Vic situation is that it didn't go to settlement.
That's true.
Well, I think it got kind of going there.
He's alive.
Who just came back at the 9 count?
He is risen.
Yay! Welcome back to the show.
Sorry, my VST host crashed, so I lost all my audio shit.
Oh shoot! No worries.
Wait a second.
It didn't save. I went to hit save, and it actually crashed.
You know that's not true. it's your first microphone slowly creeping back on you
I
when
think
you're
it's
not
haunting
looking.
me.
Exactly.
Close to your microphone.
I like look over my shoulder and stuff every now and then, and I'll see like this figure of like a microphone and a cable and a noose and turning into
That's racist.
it might be NASCAR related or something.
Might be
Oh,
NASCAR
geez.
related. God, that's a fucking joke too.
What's
So,
happening with
It was
NASCAR
clearly a
stuff?
noose.
As a side note, okay, there was multiple photos released of that noose. Now,
Okay.
if it was actually a noose, I'll say this: if it was actually a real noose, 100% I agree, should not be tolerated. However,
That was not a noose.
it was not a noose. So
What's going on?
there's a garage pull, like there's a
Okay.
rope that comes
Yeah.
down so you can pull your garage closed without like breaking your arm, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a
Of course.
NASCAR driver. Apparently every garage has these things. But there is a little tiny knot at the bottom. It's like a slip
Okay.
knot
All
that I don't know what it's for. I guess for you to hold on to better, whatever.
It's a non-slip knot
Sure.
actually. It's
It's
it's like similar to like a bowline where it the purpose of it is that you can tie a knot in a rope and it'll hold steady. So like if you tie a loop, it'll stay that loop and it won't get bigger if you pull on it or smaller if you pull on it.
Okay.
All right.
So that,
It's a knot on a rope.
I didn't
Cool.
go to Scouts, so I don't know my knots.
I
but
wasn't at Scouts. That's
This
when
is
I was
getting
a
naughty.
firefighter.
Are we at the end of our rope for this conversation?
There's this little knot.
Oh, that's wrong.
There's this little knot at the bottom of this rope. And so whoever the hell is like in charge of NASCAR's social media team, they went and did like some fucking fisheye close up Instagram fucking angle on this thing to make it look like it was a full size noose. Okay? Like made it look like it was a full size noose. Other pictures came out. If this was a fucking noose, it was a noose for ants. It was tiny. Like you couldn't stick the fucking pinky finger in it. It was that small. Don't fucking tell me it was a noose. Jesus Christ.
So me just freshly walking into this conversation. That's all it was?
That's all it was.
And people are losing their friggin' minds over this?
Well, and apparently it was like apparently it was something that was there since like October of last year.
Oh
Or
my god. So this has been around for a while then.
It's been around for a long time, so like I don't understand. I really don't get it. So my goodness.
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean if that's what they call a noose, then I don't know what they're hanging on it, but good grief.
Hang on.
We lost Ken.
It's Ken's microphone. It will have revenge.
We lost Ken again. It's gonna be 1 second here. I'm just gonna let him know.
Yeah.
We'll get him in just a moment's time. But yeah, I mean that was ridiculous, and I mean
bizarre.
there's been so much talk about it. It's yeah, it drives me insane. But we did get ourselves another. We lost Ken, but we got ourselves another guest.
All right, who do we have? Who do we got lined up?
I'm gonna wait till it gets all set up here and
All right.
good to go.
All right.
So we'll get him on in just a moment. But yeah, so we have a few other topics to talk about too. I guess we'll take a we'll take a moment to chill, just while we buy some time here.
Chilling.
So I boomer through this really quickly.
All right.
1 second.
Engage boomer controls. Oh,
Bam!
Whoa!
Man,
Look at that.
we got
look
some
at
Canucklehead merchandise. We have the official T-shirts, which we're both wearing right now. I think.
And it's so soft. My goodness. I know I keep saying this week in and week out, my dear viewers, but I have to tell you, this is very soft on the skin. It's very, very nice.
It's very light. It's like
Exactly.
100 degrees here right now, and it's super light. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we also have
And
the
also the
stickers.
stickers. Look at that. Woo.
Stickers are here. So all of that good fun stuff. And yeah, we have some other stuff there too. Check out the store. The link is in the description. Check it out. It's all fun stuff. It's all there. So now that we've done the shilling.
And don't forget blankets.
Yeah, the blankets. I'm still waiting on that.
Blankets.
It's still,
Yeah.
it's
Well, the
still-
thing is that the blankets are coming. The blankets are coming.
and hopefully not with smallpox. Hopefully not. We've already dealt with that one.
I could just see it. We read about these things in books. Now wash them with laundry detergent.
All the Febreze in the world.
Exactly. Spray it down. Bad whites, man. Bring pox.
All right. So I guess Ken will be back on in just a minute here. Still waiting.
Well, I hope so.
Probably his internet probably Comcasted him or something. So but, we'll bring in our second guest for the day. We'll talk. So our second guest is
who's it?
Ron Toye.
Hey, how's it going?
How about yourself?
Welcome.
I'm a little excitable today. I apologize. The both
all right.
of you guys.
Be excited.
Yeah. Perfect.
So welcome back. Thank you for coming on again. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just trying to buy a little time because I know Ken had some questions that he wanted to ask. So before we get into the topics there, I don't want to get into anything too serious. But I know Mr. Hop had a couple of questions that he wanted to bounce off you, light questions before we get into some heavier topics.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff I wanted to ask, and all this is all about hobbies and stuff like that. Cool. So everyone could just grab their favorite drink and just kick back for a little bit. I just wanted to really know, if before you got into convention, you met Monica and stuff like that, what were your hobbies? Because obviously you have some. And the thing is that I'm not going to accept reading as one of them because that's very self-evident. So what were you into? Were you into cartoons at all? Did you have a toy collection, comic books? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
So before meeting Monica, you could, if she ever gets time to come on and say hi to you guys,
awesome.
She will tell you I didn't own a TV, I didn't own a computer, I had books everywhere.
Oh, good Lord.
There she is.
Oh, hello. Goodbye.
It's confirmed. That's really one of my hobbies.
Did not have a TV. No TV at all.
I love reading. I also like playing chess a lot. So reading chess strategy books it sounds boring, but it's exciting to me. Really, or I like sports too. So like softball, baseball, hockey, fantasy football. I also like I like weird antiques and woodworking. So doing any kind of do-it-yourself projects, I really enjoy that stuff too. So.
For sure. To let you know, I'm into woodworking myself, so
that's
I
cool.
totally understand that. Well, what's your favorite type of wood to work? Like to work with? Is it pine, oak?
So really, it's not so much that I'm not into the level. It's more like taking something that from like an antique store and like
refurbishing it,
repurposing it. Like I took an old cedar trunk, flipped it up, made a stand, and then Chris was like, "You should put an infinity mirror in it." So I had this huge infinity mirror that I installed in the front part of it. So then it's now a bookcase that has an infinity mirror for the front of the thing, and then it's like all built out. So it's like I want to get more into like really refining my process, more just like seeing something cool and like how can I make this even cooler or weird. And
Gotcha. And how far do you go back go in your restorations? Do you shellac them at all? Do you use a fine sandpaper or some steel wool or what?
Really, it's a little bit depending on what the project is. With that one, I just different grades of sanding all the way to make it smooth. So I'm not, rough sand all the way up to the fine paint sand and sanding it in between coats. If I'm polyurethaning it or painting it or whatever, what application. But it's something that I wish there was more technical training for like the everyday person to learn, in more detail, like hands-on style. Like I wish there was a place around me that I could go or pay some guy who's a wizard at it and have him come to my house and teach me all the things. Because
those wizards will charge you an awful lot, Harry.
Yeah.
but yeah, to let you know, there is some YouTube tutorials and stuff like that. So if you got the itch that you need to scratch, hop on the YouTubes, and there's definitely tutorials for that. Once you start figuring out the different processing, it is easier because basically one particular technique lends itself to different projects and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's pretty good aspect. So basically with that off the side, so you weren't into any of the 80s pop culture stuff at all, basically Transformers, G.I. Joe and stuff like that, or what?
So as a kid and up until about 12 or 13 or 14, Marvel, X-Men, Wolverine was my favorite Marvel character. I had all the G.I. Joes. I had all the He-Men. I mean, I was...
Oh, that's cool.
I had to go all out. All the Transformers. And it sucks to think about all the stuff that I definitely threw away or broke. And now if you look back, it's like if I had my collection, it'd be worth so much money right now. Because I had the whole I had all the whole thing. Like my parents would let me collect. So if I had to have it, I had to have each of the toys so that I couldn't have it not complete, which was weird. So I had all of the He-Man, like the snap, all of it.
No, I think. What was your favorite He-Man figurine?
Probably, I can't remember if his name was Skunk Man, but it was the one that had the weird smell. Like
that's definitely Skunk
Man. The one
Man.
that came with the weird smell. It's ingrained in the figure.
Yeah, mine was the battle damage one, because the cool part is you can actually turn back the chest plate and then press it. Goes, oh look, it's got 2 scratches. Press it, it's got 3. I was like, oh my god, it's so awesome.
Yeah. See, that's fun stuff. Absolutely. They still work. Like I bet you could go to a antique toy shop and find those dolls and it would still work. Where toys.
Wait a second. Stop. Yeah. They're not dolls. They're action figures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. I'm okay with it being either way. I remember being like 10 or 9 and having like the big Wolverine, which destroyed me in Logan when I saw the whole at the end. Did you guys watch Logan?
Yeah.
Oh goodness gracious!
You remember him seeing like the kid holding the Wolverine figure? I was done at that point. I'm like crying. I'm like, that's my childhood. Like dying because I had the Wolverine and the Sabretooth, and I'd be in the bath like, smashing around.
All right. Well, we bought some time. Ken is back. His internet's working again, so we're gonna bring Ken back on. Welcome back, Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yes. Your potato internet, unfortunately.
Yeah, it went from potato mic to potato internet.
Or did his internet spud out there? Oh.
I actually went and grabbed a damn Ethernet cable to plug into my laptop because apparently my Wi-Fi is being a bitch.
Well, it definitely improved
my language
as well. So I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have everybody here. So we can start diving into a bit of what we wanted to talk about today. So now I want to address some things before we get started here. So I know, Ron, we've had you on a couple of times.
Yep.
And we've been I think that we've been pretty courteous. We've been fairly polite with you. We've been honest with you. And based on some of your actions that have been going on in the past few weeks, I'm starting to question if you're being entirely honest with us.
Okay.
So I would like to know what, because you come on here and you say that you want to answer questions.
Sure.
And you say that you want to talk and you want to be upfront. If you're not being like truthful with us in terms of this, because you said that you wanted to like starve the bad wolf and all this other stuff and step away from confrontations and things. And I know that you've said that a number of times. You're like, oh, you know what, whatever, I'm just having fun, blah blah blah. So my question is, like, what exactly do you hope to have by coming on this show and talking to us? If you're not, if after what you say to us, like say that like we give you advice and say like don't let people on the internet like rile you up and things like that, but you go on and get riled up and do X, Y, and Z. So if you're coming onto our show, and we're being honest and we're being open and we're trying to be polite and helpful to you.
Yeah.
I'd like that back in return.
Okay, that's respectable. Sure. Did you have a question in there, or are you just more of a...
My question is, like, what do you hope to get by coming on our show?
Just communication, giving you the opportunity, because I don't expect you to change everything about you or critique the way, because I'm sure when I go back and look at certain comments, I know that, the chatter isn't always positive about me. While you guys are being courteous on the show, I respect your guys' ability or choice not to always side or not even side with me, just to be the fact I'm here. I don't expect you to go and tell Nick that, oh, Ron's the best guy and not ever say anything bad about me, because that's your choice, And so I come here to just show that I'm another human who has some similarities with you guys, even though my position is different. You might not agree with all of my same tactics or things that I do online, just like I don't always agree with everything that maybe each one of you guys engage in. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we don't have similarities where we can still be somewhat cordial to each other, even through times where we disagree vehemently, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really about that. Like you can be mad at me and engage with me with confrontation where it's heated, where I don't lose respect for you. You know what I mean? I can still have positive interaction that is somewhat heated and not lose respect or cross a boundary where I start to try to hurt you as a human. Where if it's a general thing, like where somebody might disagree with my approach to certain topics online or comments, it's standing a ground. But like what I'm encouraging or my processes in this is no matter how heated it gets here, to always walk away from your show being respectful for your show, respectful for your time, and appreciative for each and every one of your guys' individual opinions, no matter what position you guys hold. So that's really what I came to, or that's why I always agree to come on your show.
Okay, that's fair. That's very fair. And again, I don't want to have you on to browbeat you or tell you that everything that you do is wrong either. That's not the aim of this. So a lot of what I aim to do with this show is to show people like who everybody is. Like,
right.
I'm not here to tell people what to think of somebody. Like, I don't tell Nick to do something. Like, I don't tell Nick to, oh, you have to say this about Ron, or you have to do this.
Right.
Nick does what Nick does, right?
Yep.
Like, I do what I do. Ken does what Ken does. Like,
yeah.
Whatever. So, like, I just wanted to clear the air about that because, like, I was getting the feeling that there was a little bit of like a double talk here that was going on. You were coming on and saying one thing, but then turning around and doing another. So I wanted to make sure that we're on the same page about that. Like, I have no problem having a chat with you. I have no problem having you on and talking with you. But as long as we're both being straightforward with each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, I know Ken had some questions. If you're ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Ken, hopefully. Yep. Okay, good. I thought you fell.
I thought he fell prey to his microphone again. Sorry, guys.
No, I've got a knife. So I'll get that cord.
I didn't take my medicine today, so you guys are in for a treat. I'm like ADHD on the max, so I apologize if I'm a little fidgety.
It's all good.
All good.
Did you need to go take it, or?
No, it's too late in the afternoon now. I'll be up till tomorrow, so
Yeah,
just ride the wave.
Fair enough. I'm a night owl, so mine I usually take in the afternoon anyway. So I wanted to kind of touch on some stuff from last time that kind of impacts us now. I know when we met last time, you were wanting to kind of cut back, get away from like the farms and stuff because it wasn't the best for your mental health and stuff. But I noticed about 2 weeks or so after I think we talked, you jumped back on and you've been back on since.
Yeah.
Why the resurgence?
I really think maybe, I don't know if I said it where I wouldn't go on there, but I will always kind of check back and forth just to see what people are saying, just to either make a comment if I choose or not. But it's more just to keep an eye on things, just to double check and see what's being out there and keep track and kind of know what's on the street.
So when you talk to people on the farms, do you have a specific purpose? Are you just like fucking with them, or are you trying to have a conversation?
Sometimes it depends if the person is really truly wanting to engage with me, and I usually can tell that pretty quickly. But some people I want to have a conversation with, and some people I can tell they're trying to not have a conversation with me. They're trying to either get confirmation for something that they don't want to change, or they just want to say insults to me. So some of them I'll just engage just to kind of enjoy the banter, and others it's just showing I'm a real person who isn't afraid to make jokes or laugh at myself or stand up or also tell somebody off if I need to.
Well, I follow the thread pretty closely because that's the one I'm mostly involved in right now.
Right.
And I've noticed more than majority of the time, the type of communication I'm seeing from you is very hostile.
Okay.
It comes off very hostile, and I don't know if you noticed that or not, but it does.
Oh yeah. I'm
So-
I'm pretty much hostile a lot of times because if you look at the majority of the communication at me, it would be pretty hostile, right? And so
It does come off hostile. I won't disagree with you.
so usually it depends. That's where it's like when people are cordial and they have a difference in opinion, I'm pretty cordial. I don't really try to be rude, but if people come at me, I'm going to meet them with equal force. And so that's kind of usually the way I respond to people is if they're going to ask a question without being condescending or assuming certain positions, then I'll be cordial or I'll make a joke. But if somebody's going to come at me aggressive and rude and accusations and insults, well, I might give that back.
Okay. Now, that seems like it would be something that would continue a pattern of behavior that, yourself, and I'm sure your therapist has identified as somewhat problematic. Of aggression and anger, and it doesn't really help in the long run.
Well, I think it's the difference in application, right? So in that moment, I don't carry any necessary anger. It's just identifying, dealing with it, and then moving on. Where maybe in the past, I would allow that anger to carry on to other aspects or stay with me in a sense, But like I can read an interaction, laugh in my head, and go type and then send and go about my next task without having any type of carryover of that negative emotion or transaction.
Well, they seem more than just like a spot interaction. It's like there's like I know the one night there was like a couple dozen or more responses in this couple hour period.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were, and I think a few people had suggested it, if maybe you'd been drinking or whatever, if you were having a bad day or something.
No, I was having a great day. I think a lot of people read into my responses more than they want to build a scenario. A lot of the times when I make a response at Kiwi Farms late at night is right before I go home from my office. I'll check it as part of like my nightly checklist. I'll do a couple responses to some people and then go home. And so I'm not angry. It might come across that way, but it's interesting because now at this point in the lawsuit where I am, there's nothing for me to be angry about anymore. And so I might respond in an aggressive way, but it's not out of anger. It's more out of I'm done putting up or tolerating stupidity or aggression towards me. Because I don't know how many of you guys were ever bullied in school, but people tried to bully me and I had to deal with that. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't know this and that about Ron. Well, that's cool. But I have had to deal with it. And the way you deal with bullies is not to run from them and not to placate to them. It's to stand your ground. And so occasionally I'll just go ahead and give a little reply and then walk off but it's no longer anger because of where I am in the lawsuit. And also I understand things differently. So.
But that would be true like years ago. I agree with you in that respect. Dealing with bullies, you stand up to them, don't let them walk on you, etc. Times have changed with social media, with the advent of the internet, things like that. Unfortunately, engaging with these people, that's what they want, right? When you look at people that are trying to get a rise out of you, people that are trying to go at you, whatever else, they're doing it on purpose to get something out of you. They're doing it on purpose to get a rise out of you, to get a reaction. So when you're talking about certain individuals that might be coming at you, insulting me, et cetera, if you want them to stop, the best way to do it is to just not reply.
But see, that's what I don't want. I'm not going to be bullied into silence. I don't care if they stop because I won't stop. You see, that's what the bullies want. And you can shake your head. Why do you do this?
It's not bullying into silence, though.
Oh, it is. If I don't want them to continue, I got to be quiet. So then that means instead of them.
I'm not saying be quiet. I'm not saying be quiet. I'm saying don't pay attention to them. Continue on what you're doing. Do your normal stuff. Act like they don't exist because it's the internet and they don't exist.
So then in a sense, I get why you're saying that. But if you allow people to continue to say stuff and you don't ever interject, then they're controlling a narrative, right? So,
no.
Okay.
No.
Well, Okay, so how would you say it's not
basically, long story short, what we're trying to say here, because I'm also in tune to this as well. The problem is that if you keep feeling every question that's thrown out there constantly to the point that you think they're getting exhausted and you think you're winning, the problem is you're feeding into their narrative and you're giving them exactly what you want, which could be looked at as a form of weakness as well. Because the thing is that if someone keeps throwing stuff at you constantly, you keep answering, so forth and so forth. And the thing is something that I had to learn and get over with as well, is that you're just feeding into their game. You're playing directly into their hands. And the thing is that that's what they want. And at the same time here, if you keep answering every question that's out there, some people, I do mean some people, could look at as a form of obsessiveness, that this person just can't stop and walk away from it. And the thing is that, don't get me wrong, out of everyone here, I'm also a fighter.
Right.
I don't like when people talk shit about me or my family and other shit like that. But it just comes with a point in time. It's like, look, you guys are just being immature.
Right.
What do I got to gain to win from this?
Right.
And the answer is there isn't any. There really, really isn't at the end of the fucking day.
Right.
That there's nothing there. Yeah. And the thing is that if you keep feeding into stuff like that, then it makes you look bad.
Right.
It makes the situation look bad. And no one wins from that, man.
And that's fair to say. And I get the opinion. And the part that is interesting, people are really looking at the couple of times I respond, right? Let's call it a high estimate. Let's say 20 response the other day. Think about how many people have been talking about me for almost 2 years, right? So then it's always critical of the other person that they respond like, oh, well, if you just didn't say anything, then this controversy would go away. How about other people being decent humans so that there isn't necessarily a controversy? And then that's the reason why it goes away.
Well, the problem is that we're not dealing with decent people.
Right.
They're looking at individuals who are looking to get something from you. And you just mentioned this has been going on for the last 2 years. Yeah. My situation is going on for 6.
Right.
So the thing is that from that, I had to take a step back, look at it. And the thing is that I have to respond when I need to, not all the time. Because at that point in time, your strike becomes that much more heavy and it becomes that much effective. Because the thing is, if you're just punching and punching and punching and punching and slapping and kicking all the time, there's no effectiveness. It's like, oh, look, here's Ron Toye again. Oh, watch this. I think Ron Toye is an idiot. Send. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you might be spurting out about it. That might get you upset, or the case may be. And all of a sudden, haha, I now have your attention. Here's some more insults for you. Now you're playing my fucking game. Right. And the thing is that's the stuff that goes online constantly. Yeah. Right. And the thing is that when it comes down to it, regardless of what people may think of X, Y, and Z, we're all better people at the end of the day. So the thing is that who gives a shit? They're fucking nobodies, man. Right. But like the thing is that I might run a comic book convention. I might be a radio show producer. I might be working in the entertainment industry for the last 30 years. But the thing is that I still see myself as nobody. Right. Who gives a flying fuck? Like seriously, honestly.
That's fair.
So one thing I do want to say, because like I know you read books, Ron. Do you just read like the help books, or do you read like fantasy, just books in general?
Not so much fantasy. It's usually either has to do something with history, strategy, business development, personal development, chess strategy.
Well, one book that I would recommend reading if you haven't already is Don Quixote.
Oh yeah, absolutely love that book.
Yeah, it's very, very good. So you know the part, because the whole reason I'm going to say, because I'm going to bring something up in this. If you remember the part where he fights a windmill, and he loses, that is the internet. So when you're fighting the internet and people on the internet, you're fighting a windmill.
Right.
You're not going to win because you might be thinking that it's something else, but it's just a windmill.
Right. Yes.
That's the whole point.
And also.
Too, I get it,
and also on top of that, one of the few things you've mentioned in our broadcast and through the last couple of years is that you really see yourself as an individual who is at point. And the thing is that you're there to protect and love the individuals who you're representing. So the thing is that you even have that much more obligation to pick your battles and fight against them, because if you're fighting against everybody, man, come on.
That's true.
How does that really look?
Yeah.
Like the thing is that I walk down the street. I'm
Yeah.
a heavy set guy. If
Right.
someone goes, hey, there's that fat fuck, and I go over and punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Where does it seriously, like for 2 seconds, where does that put me? That puts me in risk of getting charged. That possibly puts me in risk of being a dangerous individual in public, and it just builds up from there.
Right.
And the thing is that, again, if you want to start again, if we start with this in other directions as well, you're in a high social situation. What I mean by that is that you are, I forget what your profession is. I do apologize.
A mortgage loan officer.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is that you're in the position where you're talking to people constantly, all the time. And one of the few things about the internet, which has really come to the forefront, is before anyone does any research, if they want to deal with this person, that especially dealing with money, they're going to jump online and put your name in there.
Of course.
And if they see your name popping up in different arguments and stuff like that more on one occasion, they're going to start asking themselves, do I really want to work with Mr. Toye moving forward, especially representing my portfolio and my best interest in mind, as he might be a great fighter, but the thing is that he's online doing X, Y, and Z. So you might start be losing clout in that field, because one of the few things that you know, and I know, and when I mention this as well, it used to be the internet used to be this little quiet thing that's off to the side. And the thing is that after a while, things disappear. But in today's time, it's not. And it's getting fucking worse all the time.
Yep.
So again, this is why I'm really suggesting pick your fights. Don't fight everything, especially on the farms, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Because friends, here on this broadcast, what's the farms there for? The farms there is to dox people, to get information. Sorry, okay, I'm mistaken. Sorry.
The farms exist for people to go and laugh at people.
Okay.
However, that is what it exists for. However, the people that go on there do far different things. There's people that do on the far good side of things, and there's people that do on the far trolling bad side of things. There's everything in between, but the purpose of the farms is to go and laugh at the stupidity of the internet. That's about it. So when we're talking about different things and the worst of the worst, for example, so the people that dox, or the people that make real life threats, etc., that is frowned upon mostly.
Yeah.
From what I'm understanding, from all the people that I'm talking to, because I've talked to Ken, I've talked to a number of few people. Keck was one person I was talking to. I have a point about that in just a moment as well. But there are a lot of people on all sides of this, and I cannot stress this enough. It is the same thing for I Stand with Vic. It is the same thing for Kick Vic. It's the same thing for Black Lives Matter. It's the same thing for Antifa. Every single organization, anybody at fucking all can put on the uniform and act like a clown. That does not mean they speak for the entire organization.
Right. Yes, that's true.
So, and just on a side note, because I know that Keck is in the chat, and I really wanted to get this question out there for you, because Keck sent me a message a little while ago.
A lot of them.
Keck Seven Go really wanted to know, because like he's been trying to talk to you, and from what I understand, he's coming from a place of genuine concern and whatever else. So he's a little upset that you've been ignoring him, and so he just wants to know why you've been ignoring him, and if you'd be willing to engage with him.
Absolutely. Is he wanting to ask, or are they? I don't know who that person is. Would they like to ask a question right now? I don't know. That's the thing about Kiwi Farms. I get criticized for not or for engaging with people, and I don't know if they've asked me something. I don't know that identity or that name. I don't remember seeing it. So I apologize for not responding. What would be the question they have for me?
Well, if Keck's in the chat, I'm sure you could type that out, and
let's give him a couple minutes.
Get a few minutes,
but I put a live comments for all the chat action.
Oh yeah, there's always comments that are going on. Some are better than others, but that's fine. It's a free world. Yeah, it's a free world for now. So
absolutely. No, and I get the point that you guys are making on the situation, and you're right. The internet has blown up, and people do Google it, and that is why every intention now that where we're at in the lawsuits, why I've started doing more podcast interviews, so that there is additional information out there where people actually hear my voice. Because if you go on YouTube or you Google, there's been 2 years of accumulation of videos absolutely trying to make me look like this person that I'm not. Now, well, yeah, I'm going to be somewhat aggressive to people who've been harassing me. But if you look at the real issue and you start to look at the facts, this is where I'm going to be making a concerted effort to change the narrative about myself online, especially with YouTube and stuff like that. So I will be doing more videos, more podcasts, my own videos, and pretty much any interview to talk with people, not to try to push anything other than be open and open to criticism, but also share my position, because how many people have actually heard from my own voice, seeing it from my face versus a Twitter handle that they don't know, or, from a comment on YouTube,
Well, and I think that's very important as well to get, because like from my side of things, right? And again, I've said this 1,000 times, I'll say it 1,000 more. Like I'm supportive of Vic and his cause, and et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't mean that I want to see you burn. That's not not the case. The fact of the matter is, the more that people act like side A or side B is on a pedestal, and side A and the opposite side is the worst thing since like Mecha Hitler.
Right.
The more extreme the reactions are going to get, and that's bad for both sides, right? Like I don't want to get to a point where people are going to conventions and like throwing a Slurpee in somebody's face. I don't want to see that. And it's getting to that point where the reactions are getting so on the extreme because people don't see that both sides here are human.
Right.
We need to bring it back down to a level of neutral here, because like, yes, people can disagree with what you said and what you've done, and people can disagree with what Vic may have done.
Right.
That doesn't mean that people have to be deleted.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's very fair. Yes, that's very fair and rational. That's why I come on your show.
Yeah.
That's a very balanced way to think of things. Yes, this is why I'm here.
And the thing is, and we generally care. So
yes,
well, and I'm happy to hear from you that you want to go on to shows to correct the perception of yourself.
Yep.
Like the last thing that I want to encourage you to do. Right.
Yeah.
The last thing that I want to encourage you to do is go on shows, go on podcasts. Like I'm saying, don't even come on this podcast and do this. I don't want you to go on the podcast and demonize people.
No.
Right. Because that doesn't do anything for you.
Right.
That doesn't like trash talking Ty, trash talking Nick, trash talking Vic does nothing for you.
Right.
Or people's perception of you.
Right.
If you
I will be honest about my opinion of them though. If it
comes up. Yeah.
It's trash talk. Wait a second. Trash talking is trash talking.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Your opinion is valid.
If someone asks your opinion, that's a different that's a different story.
I gotcha.
But you don't want to perpetuate that intolerance.
I gotcha.
That vision of intolerance, right? So like I'm not gonna sit here and slag individuals. Like I'll say factual things about people.
Yeah.
And whatever else, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, spreading this, that, whatever else. But I would encourage you, if you are going on other shows, absolutely go on other shows. Absolutely go and talk to people. Let people know who the Ron Toye is. Right?
Yeah.
Let people know who you are. And don't I would say I would implore you to move away from this negativity.
Yeah, that's why I've been going on shows that are adversarial or opposite of my position, because I don't want to fill it with people who are going to congratulate and praise and make me out to be this one thing or another. I want to go on the shows where it's people who were not, or in neutral or not in agreement with our stance, to show that there is a common ground, what you're saying, or at least similarities in personality. Like I'm a human. And so while everybody fucks up and everybody maybe nobody is perfect throughout the week. I'm sure there's things that each and every one of us mess up on throughout the process, but it's more about, showing that transparency. Like, yeah, we're talking about stuff on the farms. You guys are critical of certain things, and that's fair. But look at this, we're still having a conversation and nobody's calling anybody names or resulting to violence. I'm open to your criticism. I'll take what I take, and certain things will happen, and we're still being civil human beings, which would move the conversation forward on both sides. And I really honestly feel, I don't know if the hashtags Kick Vic and I Stand With Vic are really active by anyone that cares about any of the parties in the lawsuit. I think it's really active by people who have their own personal agendas, who are trying to prove certain things without respect to either person's whose money's on the line, whose reputation's on the line, and they're speaking for other sides. It's like some of the stuff and actions on the I Stand With Vic are getting attributed to Vic that he has nothing to do with. And Monica called some people out the other day. She told me about it on Twitter. She's like, Vic isn't responsible for everything that's done on I Stand With Vic, and I can't be responsible for everything on Kick Vic's side. This isn't like this. And so you're right. There's people that will put on a uniform, Kick Vic, I Stand With Vic, who don't represent what the actual people want. And that's the thing why I'm doing, if you've noticed, anytime I've gone on a podcast, none of them have been on the Kick Vic side, because I don't want to placate to that audience. In a sense, I want to go on there and show the people who want to ask me questions, to show I'm just a normal guy who is living this world and has made mistakes, and who's willing to talk to people and get called out and maybe get made fun of a little bit and then give some back and continue on the fucking day,
Yeah. I did Ken have anything to say?
I was letting you guys talk. But
Okay,
I
awesome.
did have a few things
Okay.
I'd like to address. You mentioned earlier, in response to bullies, you try to stand your ground.
Yeah.
I dealt with bullying growing up, and I almost lost my eye to it. One of the incidents of bullying.
Oh,
And yeah, I got kicked in the face with steel-toe boots. That was
Holy
fun.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that hurt.
Oh,
Thankfully, I was mostly knocked out before I got kicked in the face, so that helped.
It's not a thankful situation, but I understand.
that's a bad fucking
That-
day. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
man.
if you have to deal with it, be knocked out first.
I would prefer to bite somebody's face off personally and not be knocked out, but
Well,
Could've
I
got
had the
some
chance.
like
It was
Kano
an
play,
opportunity to.
right?
Well, thankfully, nothing got broken. It was just
That's good.
it was
I'm
close.
so sorry that you.
It could have been worse. But in response to bullies, stepping up and throwing punches isn't always the best way to respond to it. People who tried to bully me in school and take advantage of me, I used to be good at classwork and stuff and schoolwork. People would always want to copy off of me. I didn't let them do that. How I responded to that was I would, offer to help them. I'm like, look, I'll help you, but I'm not giving you my answers. So I still stood firm, but I did it in a way
That's
that was
awesome.
aggressive, or I did it in a way that didn't require
Right.
me to have to get to that level of escalation. And it worked most of the time.
Right.
Some people, they got pissy over it, but, they'd leave me alone,
Yeah.
or they'd actually take my help. Occasionally it was rare, but, so applying that to the farms and how we would respond to people, I think you would get more for your money effectively if you took the time and maybe drafted out, some clear responses and stepped away from the position of hostility. I read
Yeah.
through pretty much all of the
Mhm.
50 or so replies you've had since you've been back, and they all have
Right.
some form of hostility or anger. And I think in one of them you even mentioned the goal was kind of to dunk on people. And so be it. If that's what you want to do,
Oh, yeah.
go for it. But I think you would get a lot of respect. And I see this from the conversations that go on in the threads. If you actually responded and answered questions and didn't just, for lack of a better way to describe it, lol, I'm the shit, I'm winning, fuck you guys. Think about the
Right.
questions that are being asked. I know I've seen a lot of good questions asked, and people throwing up evidence, and those questions are the ones that get bypassed. Is that for a specific purpose? Or?
And sometimes Well, sometimes when people are asking questions, like, for instance, I see a common question over and over and over. You've been saying all this time that you're going to release evidence, right? Or the common thing of, you said 100 women would come forward to testify. Well, we didn't get that far in the lawsuit process. And so, we didn't need to, they didn't ever get a chance because of the situation, and we did have a bunch of people with affidavits, but we didn't need them to come forward in the court because it never got that far. So it's just, sometimes I get frustrated by the redundancy in the questions. And it's like, where's your evidence? You said first ever. There's a process in which this has to come out, right?
So and so I say 100 people.
So it's like when I ask the same questions, that's when I disregard those questions and just go to something else that's either unique. Because it's like, I've already answered this question ad nauseum since day one, that we are going to do it in a way that it makes sense and continues on a long-term strategy of winning, no matter how far it goes. Even if it was submitted to the Supreme Court, I'm going to make sure that I stay on the trajectory that we currently are on.
And also, just to interject you just really, really quickly, remember what I talked about before about playing other people's games?
Mm-hmm.
They keep asking the same question over and over again.
Right.
What do you think they're trying to get from you?
They're trying to get a reaction, or for me to release.
So if you keep feeding it,
mm-hmm.
whose game are you playing?
Right. That's why I ignore those people and then answer the questions that aren't those questions, because I am applying that tactic.
Yeah. So, and also,
is it possible?
Sorry, I just want to jump in really, really quick as well. Also, on top of that, Mr. Toye, you have ADD, correct?
Yes, really bad.
Awesome. You know what? So do I.
Yes.
One of the few things I'm going to really suggest for you is, if you feel yourself you're responding too quickly, take 5 minutes before you press enter, especially if you're rapid firing back responses and people are jumping all over you. Because the thing is that, again, from one AD person to another, that's what gets me in a lot of trouble. My dad calls it thumb trouble, because you're there on your phone going like that or like that.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, but if you give it space and you find out that you're still responding too quickly, give yourself 10 minutes.
Right.
If you have to, go the crazy part of 15 minutes for each question.
Right.
So
that's fair.
For what it's worth.
Yeah.
So there, Ken, just want to jump in with that.
No problem. It was a good point. So I think on that question specifically, people keep asking it because it hasn't been answered effectively. So when you make the statement of 100 women are going to come forward, that gives the impression you know of or have connection with 100 people who can come forward and say Vic did XYZ. So do those 100 people exist? Where do we know these people? Like, that's where people are like, well, you're not showing it. Like, why not? Where, you don't have to name people. Like, are these personal friends? Or are these just people, accusations you see on the internet? Like, do you know every person personally? Like, where are we getting all this information from?
And that's the thing.
Where the information's lacking.
That's fair. And that's the part where I'd love to address it. And I see this person, James Andrew Morrison. You had 17 affidavits, 13 of which were from websites. It's not accurate. Most of the affidavits were from individual people who then had to swear at a notary. They had to appear at a notary, talk with our lawyers, get all of that squared away to make an affidavit. There were additional inserts of evidence, exhibits that were from websites like Pretty Ugly Little Liars and IO9 and different things. But the 17 affidavits were from individual humans. And so going on to it, hundreds of people, yes, almost every person that we know personally has their own Vic story. Now, it can range from just him being one way or another, jerk, rude, pulling hair, something. And that's where it's like, being on the inside, and I understand why people would doubt it, but it's not necessarily about trying to prove somebody is a criminal. And that's what I've been saying from the beginning. But to talk about saying somebody is perfectly innocent and has had no negative impact from people that are around them is not accurate. Like, literally everyone that I know that is a personal friend of mine that actually knows him has some experience that is negative.
Well, let's pause that for a moment, though. Let's pause that for just a moment, because I can say the contrary. Every person that I personally know has had nothing but a great experience with him.
So how many voices?
Anecdotal evidence.
Right, but I'm asking you a question. How many people in the industry do you go to dinner with and have phone numbers saved in your phone to call right now that you would answer?
Ron, I'm a convention runner.
Right. I'm asking. Okay, so let's play a game and who's can contact which.
We're not playing games. We're not
playing. The reason why I have a different level of perception in the industry is you might be able to contact them to get them to come to your con. I can contact them to come to my house and hang out for the night. So I have a different relationship. So that might mean something.
We're assuming a lot, though. Let's
assuming a lot. Like this is what.
Pause for a moment. Let's pause for a moment.
Go ahead.
I'm connected in the convention industry more than most people would be. Okay. I hear a lot of the rumors about X, Y, and Z guests.
Sure.
I hear all of this stuff. There is not a single guest in the world that does not have some rumor against them.
Sure. I'm not saying there.
So I'm not discounting you or your friends.
The people that know him for 20 plus years.
I'm not discounting them.
Right.
I'm just saying, like you said, everybody has a bad day. Everybody has bad things in the closet, whatever else. The fact of this is you can't say, well, all of my experiences have been X, Y, while other people's experiences have been A, B. They're both valid statements. It's not an if and or. They're both valid.
Right. But I'm in the one that was being sued for $1 to $5 million. So my situation is I have these stories, and this is why I held my position.
But the thing is, and this is what I really want to get across to you. Sure. Really want to get across to you. This is a consequence of you taking up other people's banner and running with it,
which I'm okay with.
But it seems like you're not okay with it. So you're a little bit upset about being sued.
Of course,
understandably so. But I've been in situations where I've taken up causes for people who don't want to talk about it, and I've gotten burnt. So I understand how frustrating it can be. The fact of the matter is, if you yourself have not been like assaulted or had a bad experience with said person, it's not really your responsibility to pick up that banner and run with it. You can be encouraging to people, you can be supportive to people, etc. But when you speak up on someone else's behalf, you take all consequence on yourself for those actions.
Right. And I understand. And that is why I did it. And people criticize me to this day for doing that. So this is where I'm going to say on that. I have the financial means. I'm also not afraid or intimidated to stand up against the situation. I do have personal knowledge, and that's why I am here. So why I say this is when I say that I have these many people, if it got there, absolutely, because every single person who actually knows him as an individual, who has interacted him on a personal day-to-day basis, has some story that would lead itself to be to make sure that because we were sued for defamation of character, like saying that our statements were false and that we blah blah blah. Well, I have everybody that would need it to be able to say, yeah, this is something that he's done. This is something he's done. This is something he's done. So it's important. And also when I'm standing up for Monica and everybody else who can't, sometimes there's people that stand in the gap for other people who are not able to stand up for themselves. And so while you took a stand for other people and feel like you had gotten burned, I'm in the middle of a process standing up with amazing women who are at the forefront of a movement in the anime industry that was long overdue. And I know that you have and other people have difference of opinions, but that's just where I'm at. And I got pulled into this thing because of hurt feelings, ultimately. Because again, if you're giving me the same counsel, right, to ignore the online hate, ignore the drama, and move on, would you recommend I sue any of the people in Kiwi Farms who's been making accusations against me?
If they have damaged you, absolutely.
How do
If
you
they
know
have caused you damage, if they have caused you reputational damage, they've lost you work, if they've done anything, absolutely take them to court.
So Ken, can you explain to Chris why it would be frivolous for me to try to sue you? This is a great example. So Ken,
Well, there's a difference though.
tried to harm my reputation. I was frustrated with him. Now I'm cool with you, bro. But walk us all through why it would be dumb for me to try to sue you. You spelled it out eloquently.
Because that spelling out had a different level of.
Just spell it out.
Well, let me finish what I'm saying first. Is what I said about you, did it cause you any impact or damage? That's where it matters for a lawsuit in Texas.
Right. But this is my point.
You don't have damage.
Hey, Ken, this is my point in the lawsuit. How does he prove that what I said or what Monica said actually is what caused him the damage?
Well, that's where a fact finding comes into play. That's why it has to go to court and has to go through the process to have the fact finding and have the stories played out in front of a jury, the fact finders, and they would determine.
This is why he lost catastrophically. No, that is not how this works. And you don't wait till it goes to a jury or this or that to get fact finding. I've explained this ad nauseum, or not maybe ad nauseum, but like Ken spelled it out pretty decently. There's way more things before you get to fact to see if something would succeed on a civil lawsuit. Now you make faces, but who's currently winning and who has won? I have a better point of reference because I have the experience. Chris, have you ever been in a 6-figure lawsuit?
I can't talk about it.
Okay. Have you ever? So you can't talk about it, but this is my point. We have metadata, so we know what's going on with every document that's ever been turned into our lawsuit. But my point in this is, I'm making this point for a reason. I have the experience where I could say, hey, if I've ever shot a bow and arrow, I've watched a ton of YouTube videos and I conceptually understand a bow and arrow. But until you've actually picked one up and shot it several times and experienced and went through it, people can talk all they want. I've been in the middle of one of these lawsuits. I know what it takes. And I know that in order proving damage is not like you have to be able to have a bunch of backstory or no history in the past necessarily, not a public figure, be able to prove that one thing was the only thing that happened in order to prove damages. So with Ken's, I've had, maybe not specifically Ken, but other people have tried to communicate with realtor partners, my branch that I have a contract with, to try to interrupt that contract. But you know why I haven't tried to sue them? Even though I've maybe lost business, maybe like we said earlier, people go online and Google it and they see it. I make I don't say this lightly, I make a fuckload of money. It's a very rewarding business. So if I lose a realtor partner, that could be a 6 to 7 figure hit to me a year.
Well, like
partner.
Can I just, like, before we go off on another one, because like, I mean, that's perfectly fine. It's your choice to sue people or not.
Right.
I mean, if you make $1 million a year and you lost $1 million of business, that's $1 million of damage.
Oh yeah.
So what I'm talking about here is if it goes to a jury because of how the lawsuit was framed, because it was jointly liable between all parties, the jury would determine what percentage of the damages is yours. Now, they could determine that you were 1% of the damage. They could determine that you were 50% of the damage. That's up to a fact finder. That's up to the jury after the lawsuit has gone down. They could determine that you were not responsible at all.
Right. That's kind of what the judge already did. That's the point of if you can't meet the barrier of entry, if you can't meet the minimum quantum of evidence, which is down here, you can't get up here. And that's the point. This whole thing is laughable. And what we're talking about, I would not try to sue Ken because I know I would have to do all this extra work. And what's the net tangible benefit? Instead of like what you guys encourage me to do, ignore the online hate, ignore the interactions, just ignore it and just focus on me being the best person and then just continue to be successful.
The point is, it's the barrier from when it crosses from online hate to real life.
Oh,
That's-
I've had it real
that's
life.
when it
Like, they've
becomes an issue.
contacted my employers and my realtor partners and my friends. Like, they've reached out and sent emails, sent messages from anonymous email accounts that they don't realize can be tracked back to them.
Yeah.
So it has crossed the barrier. I just don't have the same history and issues that has caused me to lose any business necessarily.
Well,
That I
that's a big
knew of
factor.
for a
That's
fact.
a big factor.
Right.
But I mean, like that's also the point. So, case in point, we'll look at a number of different things here because we're involved with this situation. We'll take a situation that you're not involved with.
Yeah.
Look at the accusations against Justin Bieber.
I don't know his accusations.
He's been
it's all new.
accused of sexual assault,
Okay, cool.
and he's taking his accusers to court for $20 million.
Weak sauce.
It's pretty interesting, right? There's
Weak sauce.
Shane Dawson was recently accused by a number of people of sexual impropriety, and he's taking them to court.
Weak.
So the fact of the matter is, it comes down to how much does it damage your reputation? How much does it tarnish you in the public eye?
This is again the baby dick energy from guys who think that lawsuits fix the public eye. The history, the world is changing. It is a bad idea to go and do these lawsuits, and this is something that we probably will never come to agreement on. But in the same sense that you guys counseled me to not defend myself against attackers, why would these guys choose? And I know exactly what it is. Justin Bieber is now that I've been through a lawsuit, I know the point of these lawsuits. It's to outspend the other person, to drag it on and on and on. And I don't know who's right or wrong, but you have a public figure. I don't know what the data is for Justin Bieber or the other clown. It is literally going to be a situation. I don't know if any of the facts are true or not, that it's going to be about money. And so if those people who called him out don't have enough money, don't have insurance coverage, don't have what it takes, they are going to be dragged through the mud and all this stuff bullied into silence for executing free speech. Because Justin Bieber, I don't know what he's popular for anymore. I don't know if he's still singing, but how do you prove that these two girls have caused $20 million in damages at this point? Instead of him being this is my point on Justin Bieber. Instead of the fact that he's got all this other controversy, he's a fucking joke on everybody's been covering him online, TMZ. I hope those girls take that man for everything he's got, and I would personally contribute to their funds to make sure that they can laugh and dunk on this idiot for trying to sue people into silence when he could just ignore it, pay a publicist, and it goes away. But he's engaging, trying to prove a point because he's afraid of what could come next. And that's the point that I have in the law. It's frivolous.
Sorry, before Ken speaks, 2 points. Number 1 point, modern PR doesn't exist anymore. PR does not work in the social media age.
Come on, Chris.
You can laugh at it. It's evolved. It has evolved. PR is now
That's a good point.
Come on, Chris.
marketing. No, absolutely not. When people look at themselves as brands,
Yes.
Justin Bieber is not a person anymore. Justin Bieber is a brand.
Yes.
You do not do public relations for brands. You do marketing.
Correct.
It has evolved.
Right.
Number two, what if they were lying?
Either way, but this is my point on this. In this situation, the net tangible benefit is never going to be okay, because if these girls have the money, then they can start diving deeper into these people, right? But you just made a great point. Things have changed. The internet's here. People can create bots. I didn't know this prior to this lawsuit, but I know that I can go out and create bots, right? So let's talk about this for even Justin Bieber. It's PR, right? PR's changed. It's not the same. So Justin Bieber, all of a sudden, he can clean his image up, do his thing. He's out there serving the popular people. And then those bots go on Twitter, influence the perception of Justin Bieber as this great guy, sending it all out, doing all these things. People are interacting it, and nobody remembers, unfortunately, the two girls, whether they're lying or not, their testimony.
Yeah.
Because you can influence.
Or what happens if these two girls are actually pawns in someone else's game to basically make Justin Bieber have damage for whatever infractions he did to X, Y, and Z off to the side?
But my point on this, and it was something they went over in our lawsuit, if Ron, like for instance, me in the industry, if I'm nobody and rumors have been around forever, right? Because you guys have said everybody's got certain rumors forever. Then how can you say that necessarily the rumors are the thing that caused the issue? So that's where it's this vicious cycle of, is it really worth it to sue? And I know why they do it is to control and manipulate and silence any type of criticism. Now, people have made crazy accusations against me. I'm sure they've made crazy accusations against Chris, against Ken, against, you, Mr. Hop. But what stopped you from suing them? Was it money, or was it just because you were like, this is stupid and it won't go anywhere?
Honestly,
it's a number of factors. But go ahead, Mr. Hop.
Yeah. It's both.
Yeah.
It's
both. So that's the part.
The thing is, when it really comes down to it, I really looked at it. I honestly sat down for a good long while, and I said, look, there are people saying X, Y, and Z about me.
Right.
And they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong.
Right.
But however, a friend of mine told me that, yes, I can take them to court. Yes, I can win.
Right.
But the thing is that at the end of the day, is it worth crushing someone in the dust like that? Is it really honestly worth it? Myself, as I said before, I've got medical issues.
Right.
That I have to look at my health. I have to look at my stress levels and other stuff like that. And at the end of it is that I looked and said, look, is this really impacting me financially?
Right.
Really? And the answer is, it's not.
Right.
Was it wrong for what those fucking meatheads did to me? 100%.
Right.
The thing is that, should I take them to court and prove to them that I don't have a baby penis?
Right.
The answer is no. Because I just, I'm not trying to sound grandiose. I'm just a better person.
Right.
I don't need their money.
Right.
I don't need verification that they're right, or the case may be, or anything else like that. So basically, from that perspective, just not needed.
So to add on to Mr. Hop's point, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish in a second.
It's okay.
Add on to Mr. Hop's point, because here's the thing, a lot of the stuff, because I'm very much privy to what Mr. Hop went through. If it came down to these individuals that were going after Mr. Hop, for example, and they got his source of income pulled, and they got his housing pulled, and they got like his friends to leave him, they got him to a point where he would be contemplating suicide. Would that be worth going to court over when you have nothing left? I think the answer is yes. The fact of the matter is that didn't happen to Mr. Hop. He still had everything. Right. Then, okay, I think that would not be appropriate to take someone to court action for. But we're talking, like, when we're talking about, like, you, for example, if someone on Kiwi Farms is messaging your friends, messaging your workplace, and they are losing you millions of dollars, we're not talking pocket change. We're talking millions of dollars. Yeah. I think that's appropriate to go.
Well, that's what I'm saying is people have attempted to. Like, Ken might not realize this, but his interaction and his comments as a therapist and talking about it, when you Google my name, his comments come up, they could cost me millions of dollars a year, at several hundreds of thousands. Because if a realtor Googles my name, says, hey, this is Ron Toye. Ooh, what's this? A therapist, Ken Jennings. They don't know that you're not Ken Jennings. I didn't realize you're Ken Jennings. That's why I called, and did a report and sent stuff to Ken Jennings. I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to me? I didn't say that. Who the fuck are you? I was like, hey, just to let you know, either it's you or somebody else is using your name that is saying these kind of accusations against me and spelling it out, right? Because somebody else who doesn't know the internet, because I'm interacting with business people that are older than the 20s. Exactly. So it's like, they're older than the internet. They don't know. They're like, holy shit, this guy from Jeopardy, this is it. And he's a therapist now. Holy gosh, this is most believable. So that's the thing that people don't realize is I do have money to sue people. I could invest in it. But then I become exactly what I absolutely and vehemently hate is, why give credence to the entirety of the process, right? It could have cost me money. But if I focus not on the money and focus on being the best version of me, even though sometimes I might interact with idiots online, but if I continue to do my job well and not worry about the trash online, guess what? It is what it is. I continue to press forward, and I get better and better, and more deals, more realtors want to work with me. So it's like, this is where I'm talking about fundamentally in this whole process. And even some of the criticism back to me is fair. But if it would have been applied to Vic in the beginning, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. There wouldn't have been as much online visceral hate given to different parties. There wouldn't have been as much exposure to additional crazy stuff that we hear. You know, like a lot of the things that came out in Vic's deposition throughout the lawsuit, the affidavits, stuff from his ex-fiance, all of this stuff wouldn't be in the public. It would have just been accusations that everybody agrees about, has been around about this man for several years. So then it goes forward.
Well, I think it has a different analysis to that. I have a different analysis of that, I would say.
Sure.
Is, like I said last time, the go away for a little bit and come back thing doesn't work. I've watched countless celebrities do it or attempt to do it and not succeed.
Robert Downey Jr., Hugh Grant, like the guy that got
Robert Downey Jr. for his blackface or for other things?
All the above. Do you go look at Robert Downey Jr.'s history and his arrests and all of the drama he went through, and now he's fucking Iron Man. Like the redemption stories happen all throughout Hollywood.
They're the few, far and few between.
Exactly. Plus, on top of that, with Robert Downey Jr. stuff, just to jump into really second, because I know a thing about this. The thing is that if Robert Downey Jr. did what he did, let's say 10 years ago, he would not be in the position that he's in right now. Why? Because quite simply, the internet wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the thing is that some of the stuff he was caught doing, so forth and so forth, he did pay his time. He did basically went to court. They basically told him to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And the thing is, it was done and taken care of. But if that was done like 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, he wouldn't be an Iron Man.
Well, how do
Disney and Disney would. I'm sorry.
How do we fix that for people? Because
the thing is that's really the crunch we're in. We can't.
Yes, we
can't.
We can fix it as
the thing is that in today's time, if someone says something about X, Y, and Z, and they put it online, that's it.
And I think
that's it.
Yeah, but we got to figure out this situation, and I think and this is just me because we're in a new world, right? We're trying to figure this out. In my opinion, I feel that ownership and genuine contrite spirit, even if it's maybe some level of whatever, or even just ignoring it and continue to go on. I don't know the solution necessarily, but I know everyone here likes a redemption arc. Everyone. And that's why we all cried when Robert Downey Jr. died as Iron Man in the end, or got teared up. Because
I didn't cry.
Not
at all. We want to go to Geekville? No problem. Here we go, guys. Buckle in. Not at all.
What Marvel movie?
I'll stop there.
People get emotional reaction. We want to see the good guy, or we want to see a guy make a transition, a girl make a transition, and come out ahead, because that is the life's journey, is that we're not all going to be perfect. Nobody is. But if we dedicate ourselves to being better and not ignoring the situation, we have the best chance at the end. But sometimes people are so afraid of the action steps in between. There's a great book, Chop Wood, Carry Water. And if you've never read it, it's amazing. Check it out. But it's like some people want to rush the process. And I recommended it to Nick because one, I thought he would like it. It's about a guy whose, family member gets hurt and he goes to Japan to be a samurai archer. And the process is chop wood, carry water. And he wants to rush the process, right? And the archer, he's like, what if I practice this amount of time a day and do this amount of time? He's like, okay, it'll take you 20 years. It'll take you 30 years. So it's like you have to do the discipline every single day in order to get the result that you want. You can't rush it. And so I hope to see a world where people can take ownership, do the stuff that's supposed to be done without regard of how soon they're going to be able to be back to acting. Don't even worry about that part. Don't worry about the job. Just do the work to be a better human. And then whatever comes of that at the end comes of it. for instance, if say my boss got one of these emails and was like, you know what, I'm just tired of getting these emails. We're going to fire you. If I couldn't find another job in the loan officer business, I would just find another job. It would suck, but I'm not going to spin my wheels trying to figure out and get mad at people and then end up digging myself deeper because I'm upset. I would just move on. You know what I mean?
I think the point of that is like, yeah, okay, you lose your job in the loan officer business, no problem. But now your name is out there, and people are talking about it on the dinner table. You can't get a job anywhere. You can't get a job as a janitor. You can't get a job as a street sweeper. You can't get a job, period. You can't make a life for yourself. What do you do at that point?
Well, see, and that's a interesting part about it, because the great news is, I don't know how it works in Canada, but like for me, honestly, if say hypothetically I lost it, I could not find a job in loan officer, I couldn't get a full-time job anywhere. Do you know what this is? And I've done this before. I would literally take the lawnmower, weed eater, and blower I have, go and drive and knock doors until every single day. I will mow your front lawn and backyard for $30, $20, $10 until I get a yes. Go to the next door, next door, next door. Now that's humbling, but I would, if I was in the social sphere like Vic, I would journal that stuff. I would video document me, not only grinding it out to be a successful business owner, but talking about my struggles, about what I used to do, about why I do this, and blah, blah, blah. Now, whether he did it or not, I don't care. I'm just saying what I would do is I would go knock doors. When I was a kid, I used to go shovel driveways when it snowed. When kids were at home playing and going sledding up in Massachusetts, I'd go fucking shovel driveways and walkways and make money, because I've always been a hustler. I've always been a business dude and about my money. So as soon as I was old enough to shovel my own porch and own driveway, I was like, I bet I could do this for other people. And I all day knocking doors, shoveling.
So again, not many people know a lot about different countries and things like that. So I'll preface it by saying that. Do you understand the current situation in the communist people's China, whatever it is, in China?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand the current situation there and with Beijing and everything? Not really? Okay, I'll give you a quick rundown. So right now there is a social score, quote unquote, in China, where if you dip below a social score, they have face recognition technology literally everywhere. If you dip below a certain social score, you will not be allowed to buy bus tickets. You will not be allowed to get a job. You will not be allowed to open a business. They will terminate your life until you go publicly apologize to the entire country.
Awesome. Done. Apologize to the entire country. Let's start rebuilding. So I got that.
Should we do that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Why would you apologize? Why would you apologize for something you might not have done?
Because in the end, what is it like hypothetically in the world? If I didn't have if I was the difference between living and dying in China, and all I had to do was go apologize for some shit, I don't care what anyone thinks about apology. I'm sorry, whatever they're saying about me. You guys, whatever. I make penance, whatever. Let me get back to earning my money. And then once I'm in a position, I would then systematically earn enough to where they could not ever influence my life again. And then I give them the middle finger and be like, okay, this is what time it is. Fuck off, all of you. I'm out. Boom.
So let me just say this.
In a Black Mirror episode that I watched about the social media.
It sounds like a Twilight Zone episode. Absolutely. But in a world where social media rules your life.
Yes.
Because we see it every day. This sounds like a Twilight Zone episode, but this is real life. Yes. We're not talking about China, because in China, it's easy. Just go in front of a camera and apologize to the entire country. Boom, you're back in it. You can buy bus tickets again. In the United States, you can't. There is no amount of apologies. There is no amount of recompense. There's nothing.
One question I present to the group. Have we ever seen yet a situation where, let's say, a Robert Downey Jr. was accused, or I'm not saying he was, I'm just saying somebody of a celebrity status, a Vic, somebody in the world of whatever craft they're in, who actually took 100% ownership, went on video and said, you know what? I might have a different understanding of this situation with this person, but I am so sorry this happened. I own it. I am so sorry. I speak up. My interpretation was different, but I apologize vehemently to this person for any action that I might have done inadvertently that offended them. Have we seen that yet? Video, what you were just saying, that could have absolved somebody in China, but here in America. Go ahead.
I'd have to look that up and see exactly, but I know that there have been a number of apology videos. I think the closest that comes to it would, from a celebrity status point of view, would probably be PewDiePie.
I don't know who that is.
Well, he's a very famous YouTuber. He's literally the biggest YouTuber
Google
on the
it.
planet.
I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah,
There you go.
but I'm pretty sure that he was. He's one of, like, that's the only one that I know off the top of my head. I'd have to look up the rest, but I'm pretty sure that he's the only one that's gone on video,
How do you
made a
spell
full
PEW?
apology.
Oh, there
And
it
he's-
pulled up right away as soon as I put in PEW.
And he is still one of the most persecuted celebrities on the face of the planet.
Uh-huh.
I mean, at this point, he's basically too big to cancel, but
Right.
he is still every single day having people come at him, even though he's apologized, he owned up for it,
Mhm.
he took up responsibility,
Yeah.
and every single day he is still facing constant scrutiny.
Right.
And also
Look at also just, sorry, on the top of my head.
Oh, okay. Go.
Look at Count Dankula.
Don't know who that
for-
is, but Google it.
Well, he's another YouTuber. He was infamous for making his dog salute to the Nazi symbol or whatever else. Is making his dog like do something when he said something about Nazis.
Right.
Anyway, he was basically shut down from his entire country
For the Nazi situation.
for the teaching his dog a trick.
It was basically raising a paw, for God's sakes. If he basically said X, Y, and Z, and of course the thing is that around that point in time on the internet where Nazism was just fun to poke fun at, if you're like an edgelord type of thing, this is exactly where it came from. So basically, we're talking about freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of everything in between. And the thing is, he
Doesn't
just
always
made
it doesn't always exist outside of the United States.
yeah.
I'm
But the
Googling
thing is, it's super.
edgelord.
Well, long story short, the thing is that he made a joke, he put a line, and that's all it was. Zero malice behind it, zero negativity. Just saying, "Oh, this is kind of funny, right?" Blah 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 blah, and people lost their fucking minds. And on top of that, getting back to PewDiePie, the thing is that every time when a certain newspaper, traditional newspaper article wants to get more hits on their website and so forth, they dig up PewDiePie again and go through the same stuff all over again. So
Right.
it becomes a really honestly unfair situation. And also, if you want to talk about someone who
Yeah.
stepped up and owned their actions, I did that
Right.
against better advice.
Yeah.
And you know where it got me?
Where?
Honestly, back in the fucking toilet again. Why? Because some other fucking meathead dug it up, ran it around the fucking and said, "Oh, look, Mr. Hop told a girl to eat a dick. He's a sexual predator." Hop it up, it up, it up. Meanwhile, in all fucking honesty, I never did any of that shit.
Right.
Like fucking seriously.
Yeah.
Well, like none of it. But the thing is that it didn't matter. New people found out about it. They went, "Oh my God, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
And it's like, so the thing is that what Krem is saying here is absolutely correct. The thing is, it gets pitched around. It keeps going around. If you even apologize for it, it doesn't matter because people keep fighting it.
It harkens
It's like,
back. It harkens back to something that I don't even know if this is accurate, but it's actually pretty ironic. It harkens back to a Socrates quote about how one of his disciples that he was teaching in philosophy was starting to write down what Socrates was saying, and he chastised his disciple and destroyed the writing, saying that he thinks that books and writing down knowledge is the worst thing that you can do for humanity, because it teaches the brain to be lazy, and he doesn't want his words written down because he's not there to defend them later when people use them.
Right.
If they use them in the wrong text. So when you're writing down an apology, or even if you're recording an apology, people will dig it up. People will use that later, and they constantly. This is what's happening in the United States right now. In China, it's different from my understanding of it. Once things are done, your social scores resolved, whatever else. But in North America right now, and most of the UK, if you apologize to something, not even taking admission, right? So like, let's say that I go to the store and I don't even realize that I cut the line, and someone comes and says, well, Chrysidia cut the line and they were such a jerk to me and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, I'm like, I didn't even know. Being an empathetic person, I could say, well, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Like, if I ever cut the line for somebody, I apologize. And then that's out there. And then everybody shares their story about all these times that I potentially cut the line or was a jerk to them. That's not me saying that I did this. It's saying that I am apologizing if that was an offense.
Right.
The fact of the matter is that the parallels here are they're so tight between China and what's happening in North America and the UK. But the difference is that there is no amount of recompense. There is no amount of penance that can be paid to resolve anything. And that's a problem.
Well, see,
and also another thing as well, I had a friend of mine that worked at a restaurant. They worked really, really hard, busting their fucking ass, serving tables, cleaning up after people, so forth and so forth. And the thing is that I happened to be there over lunch while my friend was working. Yeah. And they were working really, really hard. And then all of a sudden, this one customer decided to be a fucking prick. Whatever what my friend did wasn't fucking good enough for them, because basically, again, my friend was transitioning, so forth and so forth, and that person had a massive hang up on them. So the thing is that he was complaining about this, complaining about that, so forth and so forth. Of course, my friend's like, I'm very, very sorry. Allow me to take some dollars off your actual bill here. I'll get you a free drink. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. And the thing is, I saw all of this.
Right.
And you know what that fucking guy did? He hopped on his phone, went to a fucking one of those review things. Yep. And basically stated out as he's typing, oh, I'm here at Krabby Joe's. I'm dealing with the worst person ever, blah, 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 and send.
Yep.
My friend got fired after that.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, and see, that's the thing I think that's interesting in business and part of life.
Yeah, but wait a second.
What I'm saying is,
is it fair?
It's that it happened.
Exactly. And the thing is that this is the point that I'm trying to make, and what Crumb is trying to make. And the thing is that this is what all really comes back to social media, right? Especially in real life and versus real time. Because the thing is that at that point in time, I haven't talked to them in a while. But the thing is that I got no idea how they're doing. I just know they're going through a transitional period, and everyone knows going through that is really, really fucking tough, to say politely. And
do they need any money or anything? Any help?
I'm sorry.
Do they need any help or any money? Do they have any?
Well, this happened like about a year ago. Okay. So the thing is that, again, I'm really happy you offered that. The thing is, long story
short, if they need
short,
anything, just let me know, man. I mean it honestly.
Okay. You know what? I'll write that down, and I'll try to remember it. But super long story short, the narrative I'm trying to set here is that social media is like a fucking lightsaber, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. It slices through everything, and it's around forever and fucking ever. And
it sucks. It's a weird world we're in, because everybody has to face it. And that's what I was talking to my kid about, because the other day I found out that my nephew had a stream that was very racist, right? So I called my nephew and I let him know what time it was. And I called my mom, because he lives with my mom and my dad. And I was like, this is unacceptable. And so I had to explain to them, because they're young, they don't understand how long social media keeps record, right? It will never go away. I was like, when you have a job interview, similar conversation, they can search you. If they pull it up and you have this kind of stuff, it's unacceptable. My kid was on a stream with him, and I lit into him, and I was like, no, son, never, ever. And I don't know how PlayStation works and how that shit is. He's like, I didn't know. Either way, it's unacceptable. And I think that as we're going in, we're adapting and learning how social media really does impact, because Vic's, I think, almost 58. He doesn't realize how much social media. I didn't realize it. I still didn't. It should say a lot that I don't know who the fuck PewDiePie is, or is it
PewDiePie.
Yeah,
and I would say, like most people don't know what social media impact is. I think we're seeing in the past 5 years.
Yes. And see, that's where it's like, with my whole past divorce shit, I apologized for it, and I talk about it freely online. And most of the business in real estate, a lot of them are women. Mm-hmm. So I knew that there was a risk going into this lawsuit, that if my previous divorce stuff would come out, that I would have to face some it was important for it to come out, because then people could criticize me for those past actions, right? And it possibly could cause me business, but it's at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to be afraid of my past, because if it costs me damage, then shit, I shouldn't have done the stuff in the past. So I got to own that 100%. And that's where some of my frustration came, because they're like, oh, Reed doesn't own it. I own it 100%, all my drama, but it was a very big risk for us. When we were looking at fighting for the Rule 11 agreement and the confidentiality, I was like, no, fuck it. I was like, I don't want it. I don't care if all of this stuff comes out, because, I want transparency. I want people to see that people can fail and be shitty and have a road to redemption. And I didn't lose my job. It's like,
is your laptop okay?
Oh, I have like a Bluetooth keyboard for when I'm working, and I put it aside and it was starting to fall. So I was like, let me just put it on.
That's cool. I thought someone.
So can I ask you a question, Ron?
Yes, sir.
Going back to the video of your nephew and son and stuff, I've watched it and I chuckled. It was a little funny. It was whatever. Right. It was appropriate, but it was funny. I could see what he was doing. I think I understood the connotation of it in the end.
Right.
Should that video with your son's age and everything cause a significant impact in him finding employment or going to college? Should it? Not whether it will. Should it? It should.
That's the part that's a very interesting dichotomy, right? And we've talked about this. It is 100% the other person's choice, and it could very well cause a problem for him. And that,
but should it though? If a college administrator comes across it,
honestly,
he's applying for school,
in my opinion,
and they go, and let's say from between now until the day he graduates, straight A student, 4.0 GPA, volunteers, helps elderly people, all the shit you would expect on a college application. Applying for a full ride scholarship, has done nothing wrong, no criminal, nothing, perfect student from today forward. Should that one video be what keeps him out of college?
And that's where it sucks that it could, but if it did, it is what it is. You can't unring a bell once it's rung. Then you just have to adapt and learn from there. And that's where I feel like a lot of things, like if it, say hypothetically, it's unfortunate to talk about that in a situation, because my son doesn't need to go to college to have a successful life the rest of his life. He's very privileged. And that's something I had to explain to him about that privilege, that he doesn't have to work a day in his life ever.
It's just an example, though.
Right. But that's my point in this situation is it should not, maybe in a sense, but it could. What should be
one second. No, Ron, come on.
It
shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm saying in that instance, it shouldn't. If they've done all these other things, but it very well could, and that's the reality of the situation. Absolutely, it should not.
Yeah. And the thing is that if it was my kid and I came across that, I would I would pick up some water, pick up some wood, and basically go to battle for it.
Oh, absolutely. I just pay enough money to make it go away or whatever, and that's privilege. But that's the thing that sucks about the situation is in that that's why I'd explain to him, like, you guys can speak with this kind of ignorance and go on here. My son's like, I didn't know the name of this was this. I was like, bullshit. I don't know how internet and how PlayStation groups are, but I know that doesn't sound good. Like, yeah, I swear, when you go and sign into a group game at some fight, like shooting game, I don't even, Call of Duty or something.
Yeah.
Never played that shit, but some game, and the title was very horrible, the N-word. And I'm like, son, do you realize? He's like, Dad, I swear. I'm calling bullshit. I told him, I was like, I don't believe you 100%. This bullshit. You knew what time it was. it's unacceptable. But that's where I had to break down privilege in the same situation, because in a sense with people of color, it also translates into other avenues like transgender, LGBTQ community. Any type of bias or hate is a reflection of what's in their heart currently. So I'm like, what about this is causing you to want to have this kind of interaction so that I can address this stuff, right? And I know the stuff, and that's the part where it's frustrating, because it's like, this could have, and I told him, like, do you realize, and kids don't understand, they don't have the ability to process how their actions today could affect them 20 years from now. But as a 37-year-old man, I can talk to them and say, hey, Jojo, this could impact you in 5 years, 7 years, right? I am in a different position where if I didn't make another dollar for the rest of my life, I'd be fine. But my kid isn't. He needs to work. Well, I guess technically he would, depending if I didn't get upset and kick him out. But that's the part about all this stuff, is that there's a different levels of life and struggle and grind and all of that stuff that people have to see. And we are in a different world. Who the fuck knows? We're all here guessing. I don't know if that could affect. I don't know if social media is going to change. And that Black Mirror, have you guys seen that episode? It's fucking freaky, where the girls, like, through their eyes, you could see their social media score pull up. And if it goes a certain thing, they can get shunned. That's coming. We all can agree that 20, 50 years from now, you don't think that our fucking, like, in a sense, like Uber Eats or whatever kind of rating score, like Uber Eats gives us a fucking score and Uber gives a score of what kind of driver we are. That's just going to be public.
Well, the credit score is going to be a thing of the past.
Oh, of course, it's a horrible system in the way it is right now, but I know that eventually people are going to be able to see this shit. And then when they see you walking in a room, it's another way, because once we deal with the racism issue, what's the next way to then, if everybody's equal as a race and as a human population, what's the next way to differentiate? Your social standing. Because it's not about color, that it's about, well, did you pay this? Did you do this? Did you earn? Were you nice? Then it doesn't matter what color you are. It's about this other shit. Well, then how is that influence? And this is a battle we all are going to have to fight forever. And it's like, what's the key? How do we fix it?
Well, and that's why I said that PR is dead now. It's all marketing. It's you look at how you market products as opposed to how you had PR for people. Very, very different things. Very close, but very different things. And that's why modern PR doesn't work anymore. Right. You can't just go out and apologize anymore. You have to market. And when we're talking about certain things, this is why we're seeing the hashtags like KickVic and whatever else. We're seeing those be effective against people because that's marketing techniques being applied.
Yeah. Like, think about like marketing in a sense, like America. What country in the world has a better marketing strategy than our country? Whenever, if you like, let's look at your country. Most Americans sitting here wish we had your president or prime minister or whatever.
Prime minister. Wait, hold on. Prime minister.
We wish we had a man like you guys had. We have a fucking clown. Now, you guys might think that he's awesome, but living in America, I can tell you without question or wavering, almost every person who has a brain would beg, plead, borrow, crawl across the floor, hands and knees, to get your guy. He's a leader. Now, maybe you guys have a different perception because you're actually living in Canada and you get to enjoy a lot of shit that Americans wish they had. And we look like we say we're the best, but we're like currently in the middle of a civil war.
Well, if you ask most Canadians don't like Trudeau.
They don't?
They don't.
What do they think about Trump?
They hate Trump too.
Good, thank Christ. Well,
can't please anybody here.
Yeah. You see, the funny thing is just to jump in here just for a little bit. The funny thing is, I was watching the Republican leadership of this took place, and one of the few flaws I found it with the American voting system. This is the interesting part because I'll go back to Roosevelt and so forth. The thing is that what the biggest flaw with the U.S. political system is, there's only two popular parties.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Here in Canada, to our credit, we have adopted the British voting system where we have 5. So when you got private interests trying to control six. Thank you. Basically, when you got private interests trying to control both sides, that's the real winners from everything.
Yes.
And at the same time here, to push things even further, the political system, which I was really surprised about because I was growing up in the age of Reagan, I grew up in the age of Carter, and the thing is that these are individuals that really stepped up because they really felt they could make a positive difference, regardless of what party they're a part of. With the most recent Republican party leader partnership, I didn't feel that at all. I just felt it was just one brand trying to outdo another, and damn for what's best for the general people of the United States of America. Right. And I really, when I saw that, I really felt bad because basically one of the few things people kind of forget is that when Trump was originally setting himself up to run, he was going as a Dimmy.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he made it in the public record saying if I was to really run for the office, I would run as a Republican.
Right.
We fast forward 20 years from that quote, and we're now finding out what's going on.
Yep.
So the thing is at the same time here, when I was looking at what's the best of both of these parties, I'm kind of going, you got Hillary Clinton and you got Donald Trump, and that's it?
That's what Wow.
Wow. The most powerful position on the planet.
And this is the fucking people we have to choose from in all of America. Give me a break.
Like I remember the days of Ross Perot. When he stepped up and says, I got billions of dollars. I'm running for president. and he stepped up and he did. But the cool thing is there was actually 3 people running.
Right.
And I really honestly believe, and I'm going to continue my rant here, is that people want to fix the political system in the U.S. They have to step up and they have to get engaged.
Yep.
They have to.
Absolutely. Yes.
Or you're going to get the same thing over and over and over again. But however, I'm done with all that because I'll be here for hours to chat about that.
No, but this
I know
the application of this whole entire thing, because like while our little situation with the lawsuit is a microcosm of what's going on in a grand scheme around the world in America. Now we obviously talk about in what's going on in China and perceptions of all around the world. It does have application that is interesting. And that's a part of it's like, it's just communication. Think about like how many you have corporate interests that are pretty much dictating how certain legislation is passed. So is it really for the people? Like how if we don't have representation, for instance, like transgender community, tell me like right now how many people in political power are members of the transgender community?
I think one.
So how are you guys getting, how is that representation being really heard out and laws made with that mindset? Because I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that world's like. So how should I be able to govern a person who's experiencing a worldview that I have no idea about? That's not fair. And then that means our governments are not set up to really, truly help the people. And that's the thing. And that's just difference of opinions maybe. But in my opinion, I'm like, how are they really getting taken care of and laws written? Because our country, like, it wasn't until recently that you could be discriminatory towards somebody because of their sexual preference or identity. That's fucking wrong. That's a human issue. It's a human right issue. And it sucks, you know?
And I also think that they just briefly as an aside, because we're talking about political, like this is something that funny enough, LARPing had taught me something that I didn't even really know about politics, was that there's much different political systems. And this is hearkening, like shout out to Vampire the Requiem for this one. But the Carthian people in that one, they talk about different types of government. Now, one of the more fair types of government, I would say, I can't remember what the hell it was called, but it was basically it's a status of government where you have like 4 or 5 parties or whatever else. Mm-hmm. So basically, you have 40%, you have 20%. I think it's like 40%, 25%, 15%, 5%, whatever else. Right. But that's automatically carved out. That's what it is. And then when you vote for people, you vote like your first choice, your second choice, your third choice, your fourth choice, your fifth choice. Then the first choice, like basically how you vote for like Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Really. And then based on that, the weighted votes go down, and then the political party that gets the most votes gets the 40%. The political party that gets the second most votes gets the 25%, et cetera, et cetera. And that's representational of whatever else. But it's not necessarily like you could get 51% of the vote and get the 40%, which is not, and then you can get 49% of the vote and get the 25%. But it breaks down like that. That seems to be the most fair breakdown of government, because then you give representation across the board.
Right.
Everyone has a point of view. Everyone has a say, and you can't do anything without getting cooperation from other parties.
Right.
Like right now in Canada, we have what's called a minority government. So the elected party did not receive enough votes to get a majority in the parliament. So they have to work with the other parties to pass bills, and if they don't pass bills, then they have to go back to elections. Right. So it's in their best interest to like play nice with everybody else. That, in my opinion, is the best way the government works, is when you have everyone on opposite sides working together for a common cause, because everyone's voice gets heard. Now, in terms of representation, I don't know how much representation trans people should have, because I mean, we're only a very small percentage of the population. I understand that, but like it's the same thing with people of color. It's the same thing with other people as well. Everyone should have a voice, but there is a majority somewhere. So we have to figure that out, and we have to have a political system that is representative of that. So that was just
And
I
also
agree.
Jumping in there for trans rights and other rights along those lines, exactly what Crumb said as well, especially from a more U.S. System. The thing is that you have the overlarge, presidency that's going on, but if you break that down to more of the different states and you break that down to the different counties and so forth, that's how more proper representation can actually be served in your general in your general sphere of things in your general region. So the thing is that's how those rights should move forward. And at the same time, as I said before, and what Crumb just mentioned as well, it's just simply getting involved and putting a better system in place if you can. But however, involvement is key. And without that, then basically you're suffering at the whims of other people's power.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of it, where we're all, and like it kind of bridges the gap for all of these things, is what is the proper amount? What is the proper thing? What is the way forward?
It's involvement.
It's involvement. It's this kind of communication, and it's finding out, how do I connect? What are my similarities? Because this is the thing. I have only known in my life 2 to 3 trans people. That's it. So but there's people who have never met or interacted with a trans person. So their mindset might go to what Hollywood or what this fake image of trans versus just a normal person. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing we've got to break, is the stigma. Same thing with Black people. I grew up in a town where there was literally no Black families. So I didn't know much about the Black community. And so then moving to Texas and then getting around, and then I got to learn and educate and break down those barriers that maybe media or just my own brain had processed and evaluated. And in any situation, and any person, it's just sitting down, finding the common ground, and then understanding to move forward or make changes, and being willing to change your paradigm. And that's one thing that I think, if people were brave enough to be able to listen and be able to willing to adapt and change, then great. And the thing is, I have adapted and changed. I grew up my parents were very conservative, slightly racist. So I grew up with some levels of racism, some levels of homophobia, and different things like that. And then as I grew older, I then changed my mindset as I personally self-educated and grew as a human. And it's sad. For instance, like Rocky Horror Picture Show, I used to have a disdain for that show because I thought it was creepy and gross, and I didn't allow just to enjoy the art of it, right?
And how old were you when you first saw it?
Young, like 10 or 11. Yeah. And
makes sense.
I remember watching it at a Halloween party, and my friends were very, like, it was a girl and a couple other people. They were very open and willing, and they had a gay uncle, and I had never met a gay person. I'm like, this is weird. I'm watching this stuff. I'm like, it challenged everything that I thought was normal, right? Well, then going back, I'm like, gosh, I was such a limited person in my viewpoint because of exposure. I didn't know anybody. So in my mind, the only idea of a gay person was what you see in Hollywood that makes it all this other thing. And not that that is bad, but that is what my brain associates. So it's like, this is, but then I go back and look at it now. I'm like, this is fun as fuck. I want to go and dance and have fun at this party. Why wasn't I invited? And why was I so stupid at 10, 11 years old to see that? It's because it's taught. It's not educated. So having these conversations can show a person who, imagine the kids who are growing up in homes who are trans, who maybe they make up a way more of a population, who are not heard, who are committing suicide because they don't have the opportunity to feel valued. And that's the part where it's like, even in all this, any kind of thing that a person struggles with, if they just have the opportunity to talk to people that wouldn't necessarily critique them or make them feel bad, but just listen. Imagine what this could be if more people like in every level of the community could come and talk to people and be understood and listened to, but then also challenged and in a safe way.
We're slowly having that.
Yeah.
And that's coming to the forefront of things. But however,
yeah.
Ken,
sorry, I know Ken really had another topic that was like 20 minutes ago.
No, you guys have been having a good discussion. I don't like interrupting.
Yeah.
Go
When
ahead.
a client of mine's talking, I like to let them talk because
Yep.
it's helping them think through things.
For sure.
So I want
Go ahead,
to
Ken.
kind of go back a little bit. I don't even remember when it was now. When we were talking about apologies and stuff.
Yeah.
And the effectiveness of that, because I wrote a note down and I felt it was important to go back to this. Would you say it's fair that Vic's apology has been used against him in this lawsuit?
Again, I know that it might come across weird, but fair is an interesting word. So when you're playing a game, there are certain rules. Now, the other party might not like the rule, and it might not seem fair to them, but if you have something that you can use on the other side that helps your position, then it is advantageous for the other side to use that situation. Now, it might not feel fair, but that is what it is. So that's the part that comes in this situation, in this lawsuit, that might not seem fair, but also should be the thing that I've tried to draw attention to is what it's not about fair is should he have done it? I agree that he should have. Maybe some other people should maybe say he shouldn't. But at that point, is it fair for him to have received the things that he got after issuing the apology and then counseled to go in the direction he went? Was that fair? So in my pit, the fair part is hard because I'm in a different position. But if I'm looking outside in, I think that people see it and it's their right to make their determination and what their evaluation of it was, which fair is in the eye of the beholder in a sense, because I'm sure to Vic it's fair, but to me it feels fair, and to others it's neutral. But that's kind of it's a tough item to deal with because it depends on whose perception you're perceiving, whose position you're looking at that through. Because to me it's
I understand that,
but to some others it's not.
Well, when I say fair, I don't mean fair as in whether it's fair to use them or not. I meant, is it a fair thing to say that the apology has been used against him? Do you agree with that statement?
I agree that it has been used especially in my position to win the lawsuit. I think that it was important for him to do it. I would have probably, if it was me, I would have probably been a little bit more, which I've already shared. But the fact that he issued one is commendable because at least he's taking ownership for some stuff that he either did or didn't realize was causing an issue.
Well, if we look at that, then would it not be also agreeable to say that the issuance of an apology can be what prevents you from coming back, prevents you from actually having a life? Because his statements, whether true or false, whether you believe that, they have been taken, they have been twisted, they have been misquoted, and that hurts his position, that hurts his ability to find employment, hurts his position in the lawsuit. So
I think
does an apology really work?
I think it matters on what you do next. I think if you issue an apology, taking ownership putting out action steps and then follow up the apology with what happened in his situation, that is why, and we don't know, because I'm only looking, hindsight's 2020. So I can say, oh yeah, this is obvious. If he did this and this and this, it might not be here. Right. So in this situation, I think that if he would have just issued his apology and didn't file a lawsuit and just kind of did his own thing, we don't know what could have happened because he didn't. But in my mindset, I think that he would have had a better outcome long term than what had currently happened, because of the possibility of exposure of the skeletons that almost everyone has in their closet. And that's the part where if you evaluate the validity of the lawsuit and you're looking at it as human to human, would it make sense? Is there any opportunities? Is there a net tangible benefit? Versus, it's going to suck. You might not get work for a year or two. You're going to get some conventions still, but just stick with your apology. Do the marketing of, I'm going out to this con, I'm volunteering here, I'm doing this, I'm branding, I'm changing the interaction with fans, I'm side hugging, whatever it is, that could have had a different impact. And so while we talk about fair, I'm sure from his perspective that it wasn't fair, because he was trying to be humble. He was trying to go out there and say, hey, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize, I'm trying to be a better person. And that's where part of me is, has some level of compassion on his plight, because I feel like maybe he was trying, but then was convinced in another sense. And that's just my perspective. Maybe it wasn't the case, but was then convinced in that moment of vulnerability to go through with something that, if you look at the long-term net tangible benefit, given if there were any skeletons that potentially could come out, given how long lawsuits take, would that be better than investing the 3 years, 2 years that it would take to clear the lawsuit, maybe longer, if you just, in a sense, ignored the noise, similar to the advice you given me, and change the marketing strategy of this and that, rebrand the resin pool, whatever it is, address the hurdles, and then intently go out and do the things that most people are objecting to. So if it's about interacting with fans, well, obviously we can see by your guys' convention in different photos, he has changed the way he interacts with fans. Okay, great. So he's checked off a box he's already promised. Now he's going out and continue his day-to-day, having fun little videos that he does and whatever he is. So then eventually, not that it diminishes what people have said, but people have gotten to say what they wanted to say. It's out there for people. They feel better. Vic then does his response, and then he goes on with his life and continues the marketing strategy of whatever he's trying to do.
Let's pause that for a second, though. Yeah. Two things that I wanted to get. First one before it escapes my brain for a fifth time. Because I remember your conversation about the whole fear situation and blah blah blah, and why people call him that. That was actually a character that he played. I can't remember what series it was, but that's where the Reasonable Rangers came from, and that's why they call him the Fuhrer. Was because of that particular series. So I know people out there were wondering.
Or Alchemist.
No, it wasn't Full Metal Alchemist. It was something else.
Oh,
I can't for the life of me remember what it is. I
never seen Alchemists either.
Yeah, it was something like that. I don't remember, but that's what that was from.
Google
Wizard.
I mean, I could Google it, but I'm lazy.
Yeah, and that's where it's like it might have been innocent, right? He might not have even associated it, but the thing is, like, it's being considerate. So.
Well, the other part though is the word Führer is just leader in German. It doesn't necessarily mean there is no connotation directly to what that is in history. But that's a side note. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is when you're talking about this, there is no just going back to things. There is no just going back to your life, because Vic had that taken away from him. He had his jobs, he had his positions, he had his friendships taken away from him. So I'll put you in this situation.
Sure.
If you were put in a situation where you were not allowed to get work, your friends and family were taken from you, and they all of a sudden just wouldn't talk to you, they wouldn't associate with you, you were on the verge of putting a bullet in your head.
Mhm.
What do you think the appropriate action is there?
So this is why I feel like I can speak to the situation, because I literally was there. Whenever my divorce from Marcy, and people ignore this and they want to play over it and oh, this and that, I was there. I call it the dark night of my soul. I've been there. I was literally driving my Mustang, because back in the day I had this nice Mustang, and I contemplated steering it into the bridge on 820 as I was driving down it, because I'm like, here I am again. Second marriage, failure, drama. And at that moment, I'm like, will I let this be my story, or will I put the effort in to then change it? So while people might ignore it and make fun of it and poke fun, Ron's an abuser, Ron's this, that is their right. But in the moment of absolute desperation, where I contemplated driving my car as fast as I could and jerking it into a bridge, like the cement wall, because I knew I had life insurance that would take care of my son for the rest of his life and my ex, it was a moment that woke me up. So while I can speak to this specifically and why I didn't want confidentiality is I was there. I did contemplate this type of final idea off of the assumption that nothing would ever get better, that my life was over. You know, everything in my moment in that time was crashing to the ground. And so I realized that I can only control what I can control. I can't fix all of these things at once. It's going to be a long-term thing, and it starts with me. Because if I try to fix the other solutions and other problems and try to make my job and all these other things right, it will never stand, because it's why abusers, it's why people continue in a pattern, because they try to fix the external instead of the internal. So I knew I had to drill deep and go and dedicate myself to the process of being a better human, to then eventually whatever happens on the outcome happens. And I didn't just become a loan officer right away. In that 8-year period after my divorce, I was in apartment managing. I worked my way up in the mortgage business. And so it's like I went through, and I also had my own business right as that was going on. I was helping homes that were foreclosed. So it was me finding myself as I was going through the process of being a better person. So that is part of the falling in love with the process. And that's where I feel like some of this has been sidetracked in a sense, where even now it can still get back on the right track, where it's forgetting about the immediate gains. Because even in this situation, he's still, like, Vic's still getting work. Like, he was at your con, he's getting invited to some other cons. Like, he's going to continue to get work. So it's not focusing on the work necessarily, it's focusing on the person, and then and getting that brand out there.
But that's a byproduct. But that's a byproduct of the lawsuit, though. That's what I need you to understand. So, like, from your perspective for your divorce, you didn't have the big publicity behind it. You didn't have all this stuff while it was happening. Like,
Right.
You had stuff that you had to deal with that was contained within yourself that you had to deal with. That's fine. Vic had all of this stuff dragged out in the public and dragged out in front of prospective business people that were going to have him in. The lawsuit was the proper vehicle, in my opinion, for him to bring forward his innocence and show that he was standing up to these allegations. Now, unfortunate that you yourself and some friends of yours are casualties in this situation. It's the proper vehicle to go for him to get back to where he needs to get to.
And that's where the perception
is, because without the lawsuit, I can guarantee you, it would not have been favorable for us to. It would not have been possible for us to bring him to Canada.
Well, and this is what I want to say about that, right? We all know that these accusations, and he even said it in his testimony, that these accusations have been around for a long time. So the accusations were not preventing him from any conventions. Whenever he issued his statement is when conventions, especially with the political climate currently, started to make a decision to, like, hey, we need to step back.
Well,
and
it was
then
actually
the lawsuit exposed more information out there to the public because I've said this a couple of times. When you sue someone else, it is impossible to prove your innocence by proving in this situation. At best, he would have been able to say that they didn't have enough information to prove their statements were lies.
Well, peeling it back for a moment, just this very briefly, because I'm going to talk, because there's two facets to this. There's the public facet, and then there's the back end, right? So the public facet, yes, it looks like the things got canceled when Vic apologized. I would argue that the actual the talk about cancellations and the talk about this and that actually happened when he got terminated from Funimation. Because hold on a second.
The timeline doesn't match up.
Hold on a second, because Funimation is the vehicle to get him into conventions, right?
Yes.
It's true, because I don't. If I'm contacting someone who's under Funimation's employ, they're going to tell me contact Funimation.
Yes.
So I contact Funimation to get him in. So if Funimation terminates him as an employee, that is known to conventions before it's known to the public, because Funimation, like, if they have an existing contract saying, "Hey, we're no longer employing X employee, do with that what you will,"
right?
Because and when you look at different conventions, it's like, okay, well, we don't have a contract with Funimation anymore to bring this person in. Let's bring in X other person.
Right.
So that happens before the apology happens.
No, that's what I'm saying, Chris. I implore you, go look at the timeline. It was already done in the last hearing when Vic on the stand. The cons canceled before Funimation's first tweet. Go look at it. That's what I'm saying.
So when was it tweeted, first of all, from Funimation, and when did the termination happen?
So go back, and I know the dates because it's all in the lawsuit, and it's why we've in the situation where we currently are, and that's where it's spelled out in the last transcript. If you go back and look at the timeline and look at when cons canceled, my lawyer was asking, so and you can see in the transcript roughly, I'm paraphrasing, he's like, so how can you say that these cons canceled based on a tweet that hadn't yet been tweeted?
I understand that 100%, but let me say this 100%. Does it make sense logically that Funimation would tweet something and then terminate Vic, or would they terminate Vic and then tweet something?
No, I understand what you're saying, but as a person who's your biggest the voice actor guest you've ever had at your con?
Well, considering that we're only like 6 years old, it's been Vic.
Right. So speaking of someone who lives with somebody who gets booked constantly at major Comic-Cons around the globe, typically they don't reach out to Funimation to talk about Monica. They reach out to her convention booking agent. And that's either her booking agent or her actual talent agent. They don't ever contact Funimation because Monica is a contract worker for Funimation, so they wouldn't contact her. So in this situation, where it doesn't matter if he was terminated prior to the first tweet, because the con started canceled way before the actual termination happened at Funimation.
Well, we don't know that, do we? Was it before?
We did, because it's spelled out in the lawsuit documentation when cons canceled. Conventions
start canceling before February 11th.
Yes, absolutely. And that's spelled out in the lawsuit. You can see it. And that's why I'm saying a lot of people have been misled. I promise you, and I'm not trying to convince you that if we lied or didn't lie, please go back and look at the timeline of when cons canceled.
I could actually answer some of this.
Go ahead.
Long story short, a lot of conventions canceled after when Funimation put the tweet out.
That's absolutely false.
No.
If you go back,
no, it's not.
I will literally bet you right now. I will bet you $1,000.
If I had $1,000,
how much money do you have?
I've got $1.
Okay, I will bet you $1.
Okay, all right, you know what? I can handle it.
They canceled on the 21st, which correlates with one of his apologies. They canceled on the 26th. But in that thing, my lawyer was spelling it out for the judge, and the judge.
One second. How many conventions canceled? Because
all the ones that you mentioned in the lawsuit.
So, like, before we get too far into the weeds on this, because anybody out there, because I don't have it in front of me. I mean, full disclosure, I'm not looking at this when we're having a conversation. When was Vic terminated from Funimation as per Tammy Denbo? As per Sony stepping in and saying, we're terminating your contract. When did that happen?
That happened late January, early February, because basically the Dragon Ball Z movie came out in January and it grossed over $3 million in one weekend. And then immediately after that, that's when all of this took place.
Because I'm seeing a lot of dates. Like, people are sending me a lot of dates, and I need to know when that happened. Because I can tell you, if I had a contract with, say, Sony or Funimation or whoever else, to have X amount of people at the event. So I don't know. If I'm sponsored by Funimation and the sponsorship is not money, the sponsorship is guests, for example. Like, I agree to have 5 guests from Funimation at my event, and then we advertise them. Great. So in those 5 guests includes Vic Mignogna, right? Let's just say, hypothetically.
Yes.
So X date in January, I get an email from Funimation saying Vic has been terminated. It's up to me to either continue and then pay his appearance fee, or I cancel him.
Yes.
That's my understanding of this. Now, I don't know what every convention says about this, because every convention's different. They could have different things. They could have had a direct conversation with, okay, I'm just getting it, January 29th. So how many conventions terminated Vic before January 29th?
As far as I could tell, there was a few. Not a lot, but a few. But the thing is, after Funimation dropped the hammer, the thing is that a huge bulk of conventions canceled Vic. Hugely. And the thing is that's exactly what took place, because I remember that verbatim. What conventions, what date, I don't know. But the thing is, what I do know is that immediately after Funimation did that, that was it. A lot of conventions canceled.
This is the marketing ploy that you have heard. Go back and look at the actual dates.
Well, this is the thing. I'm not discarding your dates. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying this is what I've witnessed and what I've been a part of. And the thing is that if we want to do per dates here, I'm pretty sure there's individuals watching this broadcast, and I'm pretty sure they throw dates at us with the actual convention attached to the cancellation. Because I remember when what was it? The unofficial Anime North Facebook group on Facebook basically posted that Kamehacon was canceling Vic, and I believe that actually took place after the Funimation dropping. And then after when that took place, you got dates. What do you got for us, Ken? Hit us up, because we're running around in circles and kind of going, we don't know.
It's okay. No, it's okay. 29 January, Tammy and I think another person on the phone canceled Vic. They terminated him on 29 January. On 30 January, Anime New York City and Anime Milwaukee canceled Vic.
Right.
The days following, there was tweets and stuff made. What was it? Hold on. I've got scrolling down.
This is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. We're getting all the dates here. So
yes.
February 4, Denver Comic Con canceled Vic. February 5, Funny Fuck
yes, keep going.
And between February 5th and 6th, Florida SuperCon, Raleigh SuperCon, Kamehacon, Hudson Valley Comic Con also canceled Vic.
But all of these happened after January 29th.
Right, but Funimation's tweet hadn't come out yet.
It
doesn't come out on the 4th. Whenever you know what came out on the 4th? Vic's video at Bach Anime admitting he really messed up.
That's fine. So on the 4th, the 4th is not the 30th. The 4th is not the first. The 4th is not the second. The 4th is not the third. My point is,
all dates before Funimation tweeted.
They were all dates before Vic said anything, and they were all dates before Funimation said anything, which leads me to believe.
No, Vic already apologized on the 19th in his Discord, on the 21st and on public, and then on the 4th of February, that had 1 million views from Bach Anime.
And again, this isn't an accusation against you.
Oh no, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
100%. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
The dates between the 29th and the 4th, from the time that Vic was terminated to the time that he made a statement on it, how did those conventions know?
He apologized on the 21st of January, and then the 26th of January, and then on the 4th of February, that had 1 million views. His own mouth. the thing that's unique to this entire situation. Prior, it was only people bringing accusations. Until Vic admitted it on the 19th that he had messed up in his private Discord. The 21st in a public statement to his 113,000 Twitter followers. Then I think on the 26th, again, another statement. And then on the 4th of February, an apology letter. So why I've said this is go back and look at the timelines, not to say if anyone's innocent or guilty, but to challenge the validity of the lawsuit and the timeline of when Khan's canceled. It happened before Funimation's first tweet. People don't contact Funimation to book Vic for conventions.
Wait a second. Question: When did Funimation terminate Vic on Twitter again? What was the date for that?
I believe it was like February. It was in the middle of February somewhere.
February 11th. Can we double check that, Ken?
What was that?
Can we check out when the Funimation
tweet was?
I'm sorry.
When Funimation's tweet was?
Yep.
Their tweet was on. Damn it! I just had it. All right. I think it was on. One of them was on the 6th. I think. Let me go back to my notes. Where the hell was it?
No, Funimation's first tweet was, I believe, on the 11th or the 19th of February, somewhere in there.
So 11th of February.
Maybe that soon. It might have been later. It might have been the 21st. It was sometime in February, towards the middle of the end of the month. I don't have the documents and pulled in front of me. I just remember the.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is what Ken's checking out right now because we got the three of us talking here. We got Ken just double checking.
February 11th, Funimation tweeted the investigation tweets.
What was that date?
February 11th.
So February 11th was the first time Funimation tweeted about this thing publicly.
Well, and I'm just looking at Vic's apology tweet. That was February 13th.
No. There's one before that.
There was one before.
Look that up. Yep. There's a couple. He issued
the one that's being thrown around social media.
That was the 21st of January.
Let me just. You guys can continue. I'll scrump through this here.
It should be 20 January when was one of the apologies by Vic.
And 19th was his Discord server, where that got leaked to the public, which sucks, but it's part of the public debate and why, it's like if this is already out there, does it make sense to then sue people for defamation in that sense,
So with the topic of tweets and timing and all this up, even though Funimation's actual tweet might not have been until, I think I said 11 February, with, for lack of a better term, shit tons of people adding them, hey, Funimation, this and that, this is going on.
Like it's still going on today.
Yeah, so it still goes on now. With all that going on, does that not have some influence potentially on their decision in terminating him or not?
The thing is, you can't really point to Funimation stuff until after, like anything that Funimation did until after they tweeted, right? So
I'm saying in the lead up, people are pressuring them. You have a ton of public pressure to terminate someone for these allegations.
Well,
in
that same situation, Ken, right now there's people tweeting constantly for the last 2 years to fire Monica and anyone else who spoke up against Vic, including Chris and Sean and other people, trying to get them fired, right? So then,
hold on a second. You realize that is mostly, and I say mostly because some people are actually serious about it, but it is mostly like tongue in cheek because of the way that those individuals had campaigned to get Vic fired.
But see,
it's a tit for tat situation.
But so does that excuse the behavior?
No, it doesn't. I'm just saying it's not serious, though. It's not a serious call for these people to be fired.
So, but if we talked about online and social media and other people are supposed to ignore the hate and ignore the noise, and this has already been going on for years, 15, 20 years, then there's no unique aspect to this about accusations. The only unique aspect to the accusations online is the very first time you ever see publicly Vic admitting to any level of culpability or
I'll disagree with that sentiment.
I would qualify that the unique indicator on this is that this caused damages.
Well, but have these rumors been going on for years? You said that
They didn't cause damages, though.
They didn't cause damage.
But see, this is the point where this is the thing. If these rumors have been going on for years and didn't cause him any issue, and he has never issued a public apology, then he issued the public apology. You can see then when cons start canceling, is it, I'm not saying it did or didn't, is it a possibility that he finally admitting things could then say, hey, we need to separate just in case, because he's coming forward and admitting some level of issue. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying I'm putting it out there. We're all logical people. If, in fact, there has been rumors, which we can all see documented-wise, that he has been dealing with because there's been panels, there's been forums, and all this other stuff. So nothing unique on
hundreds of voice actors have the same thing, though.
I'm not saying they do or don't. They're still.
I know plenty of voice actors that have had like rumor panels and stuff. That's just
other ones.
That's just fluff.
Which other actors have you known to have a rumor panel?
I mean, not to put anybody on blast, because I really don't want to start rumors about people. But there is a prominent Canadian voice actor that has very similar rumors to Vic Mignogna. That he's been at conventions with Vic Mignogna, has often been mistaken for him as well. He's done very similar stuff in the past where he's had rumor panels and stuff like that. He's a wonderful human being. I don't think that he's done anything terrible in the past. So,
right.
But I don't want to name names. But
so to be fair, based on what you're saying, is rumors don't cause people to be canceled, right?
No, exactly.
Okay.
So the point is, rumors did not up to this point cause people to be canceled, but rumors did cause someone to be canceled after a certain threshold.
Well, this is my point on this, and just challenging it, because just like you challenged me with my actions, sure. What if the only unique application in this scenario, I know this might be hard to process, what if the only thing that's unique in this one is the fact that someone actually took accountability, whether it's right or wrong, fair or not fair, took accountability for some level of their interaction, and now conventions have to look at that and say, wait, maybe now it's not just rumors. He's actually admitting that he failed, no matter if it's because he's Italian, he just didn't understand boundaries, but he had some level of issue.
He never admitted anything. Right. He never admitted anything, though.
But he did in his first apology. We could read that if you would like.
Here's where I'll challenge that.
Wait, but first, really drill down. On his first apology, Chris, have you read his first apology that I think came out on the 21st?
I'm looking for it. I can't find it. So
it's in the record. I'm pulling it up right now. I was looking at the document where they conceded that he's a public figure when they're talking about the Rule 11 agreement with the court, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is an issue," but it's like, nope, it's right here when they were talking Bullock, Casey, and the judge about why they were wanting to try to put a Rule 11 agreement in there, and they're talking about because Vic and Monica are public figures, and they're wondering why public figure status was so easy to establish with the Vic. But
here's the point about that I think is important. So as we know, on the 19th, the reply briefs came out, and one of the points that was made in the brief, I believe, in response to you guys, was that prior to your case, I think it was the Dallas Appeals Court ruled that a person cannot waive like their public, like they can't say, "Oh, I am a public figure." That's a decision that has to be made by the court or fact finder. So even if Vic says, "Oh, I am a public figure," that doesn't matter because the court would still have to determine that.
That's where you're reading stuff from lawyers who should be bagging.
I'm reading the case.
Right.
Not
but what I'm
the lawyer.
In that case situation, the Vic's status as a public figure wasn't established because he admitted it. There's several different tests to put someone as a public figure, either limited or different purpose. There's limited purpose public figure. There's different levels, right? So either because he inserted himself into the debate by issuing the public apology, by the fact he has a verified Twitter account, by the fact he's been in like 400 productions, the fact that he in his deposition was talking about, if you live in Dallas, Texas, and you've heard a commercial, you've definitely heard my work. He's been on Star Search. He's been on movie things. He has IMDb. Like, this is a moot point. And even his lawyer on video on Nick Rekieta's stream said he figured they were going to consider him a public figure. So people are distracted.
I'd say it's possible he's a limited purpose, but a general purpose, it's highly unlikely.
But even at
because of
limited
the requirement.
purpose, you have the hurdle of actual
I
malice.
agree. Yeah, I agree with that. You're absolutely correct.
It was a doomed lawsuit from the beginning because no matter how you slice it, he's at very bare minimum limited purpose public figure.
And it's definitely an argument to have, but I think there was also another citation, and I have to pull up the
Was it the one that
actual
was left
document.
blank?
What's that?
Was it one of the ones that were left blank? Because there were several of those in his replies to us was missing citations. It was still the missing thing that he's kind of known for since the beginning.
I think that was just a formatting issue.
Okay. Like missing the dates of how many numbers he did and exceeded the freaking minimum word count by like 10,000 words.
Yeah.
Isn't that
has a problem with that? They'll tell
Honestly,
him.
transparent? Like, isn't that sad that somebody raised almost 300,000 crowdfunded for a group of attorneys to then mess up the replies so bad by almost 10,000 words?
Well, to be absolutely fair, I mean, like from what I know about attorneys, like one attorney is a giant ego. When you have like a gaggle of attorneys, I don't even know if that's the right term. I can't even imagine what the room is like in that. So.
I know what it's like. I'm paying for a gaggle. Yes, it can be intense.
I can't imagine what the room is like. You probably can't even breathe for all the jello in the air. So
yes, it's rough.
One of the things with limited purpose public figure status is because, like I said, I think it's highly unlikely the hurdles crossed for general. For limited purpose public figure is, and I believe it's also been touched on by the Supreme Court, is that requires you to like have an active participation in it. Not where, like, if I were to say I want to defame you, right?
Yeah.
Say I don't like you and I want to fuck with your life or whatever. Under, if the logic was, I can defame you, and then you reply to me and say, no, what you said is absolutely false. You're just, because I'm dragging you into it, I think your denial of it, that would automatically make every defamation case a public figure concern, because I'm dragging you into it, not you going, oh, I'm not really this. You weren't so active in it. You weren't taking this stance. I think a reply of, even though whether you agree or not with the apology, going, I fucked up, or I apologize for this, or whatever it is. I don't think that will meet the legal burden to cross the limited purpose public figure status.
Not just that, but Ken, he had more than just one public apology. He's had interactions with fans online. He had the video. He's going to conventions. He's posting pictures showing how he hasn't really been affected. For instance, there's a picture with him at Canuckleheads with like fans behind him, right? And they were throwing that. So then, in a sense, you're inserting yourself in the debate. But let's take it step by step. Go in and look at what it takes to get a blue check mark on Twitter.
Nobody knows.
Oh, yes.
Nobody knows, actually.
Nobody knows. I guarantee you.
Oh, yes.
One second. Ron?
It used to be a process, but
it's very clear why somebody gets a blue check mark. Somebody who has screen controls, go Google right now Twitter's reason for giving someone a blue check mark, and let's throw that in front of everybody. Just so
it's not applied accurately, though. That's the problem.
But
Twitter doesn't actually do it that way.
I don't like the way it's applied, but let's just start with let's just start step by step. Does anyone on this right now currently have a blue check mark?
Why does that matter?
Matter.
So what I'm saying is, why does somebody get a blue check mark?
Okay, wait a second. Does anyone on this panel used to be a radio show producer? What does this matter?
So you have radio?
Am I a public figure because I've been involved with movies and I've been involved with broadcasting, I've been involved with publishing.
Watch this. Hey Ken, spell out why I couldn't succeed against you because now I'm a public figure. It's in his little reply. He did it pretty sweet. Go ahead.
Well, it's a side point to the
It's material.
No, it's actually perfect because Vic has 113,000 verified Twitter account. He has an IMBD. He has a fan page. He has
Okay, well, hold on a second.
openly admitted. This is the thing. He goes to public events and is suing for damages of $1 to $5 million for signing autographs for fans. Do you see how just that alone? If you were to go to if you were to sit down at an event, how many random people would come up to you to sign an autograph?
It's not for me to get an autograph signed. I'm not
Right.
It all depends.
Living by strangers who watch his shows.
I'm gonna bring
anime and all these things, and Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever he does, Star Trek Next Generation or whatever his show is called.
I'm going to bring someone unpopular up on stream here just for a moment. So this is a very good example of literally nobody knows what makes a blue check mark. Okay.
Mhm.
So people that can see.
Hey, it's Jeremy.
Yeah. So he has 83,000 people following on Twitter. I'm pretty sure he's like somewhere in like the 800,000 on YouTube. He's a prominent figure,
right?
He's a very big influencer, right?
Yeah.
And he's not very popular with certain people, but he gets like hundreds of thousands of hits, and he's a social marketer. So he's a very, very big influencer.
Here,
he does not have a blue check mark.
I know, but this is something that people might not like to hear. But how do I make a comment in the live comments? It doesn't show me like a box to paste this link that I just got. Here, actually, I'll do it in the private. This is right from Twitter itself. Go ahead and throw that up for everybody.
I'll take a look at that too, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
so here's the thing is I've watched and seen people be verified with literally a few hundred followers.
It's not
So
about
the amount of followers.
There's a reason they're verifying certain accounts, and it'll tell you right from Twitter itself why they verify account.
Probably because the Twitter thing says that for people who are, if you're like interesting, so like
let's just read it what Twitter has to say.
It says the lets people know that an account of public interest is authentic.
Public interest.
That's public interest. No.
But why would a public in general be interested in a person, right?
It's two different. Whoa. Hold on. It's two different things.
Well,
public interest is from what this is. Completely two different things, man. I'm not just. Yeah,
I know, I get it, but what I'm showing you and walking down the path is for a very, very important reason. Again, even if it's just for limited purpose public figure, when you insert yourself into a debate, you have 113,000 Twitter followers that you then issue in a public apology on. You have a matter of public interest. There's a matter of public concern. These are things that lay the groundwork on, is it a frivolous lawsuit or not? Now, this is just one aspect, but we can pull up IMBD and let's pull that up. And then let's pull up.
Well, I think we're getting into a bit too far of a conversation that really none of us in the stream are qualified to talk about.
Well, I understand that.
Of the four of us, I think we have 0 lawyers between all 4 of us. So
I have a lot of lawyers.
I know a lot of lawyers too, but that doesn't qualify me to talk about the law.
I'm currently paying them.
So,
Maybe I don't know if
take a look at it. It's like, I mean, what a type of accounts get verified? Actors get verified. So I mean, automatically, it's saying that
not all actors are verified because you can go in and see several that aren't.
Exactly. That's my point, though. It's like, yes, Vic Mignogna's account's verified that's his account because he's a person of prominence in the acting industry or whatever else for his little sphere. Yeah. Jeremy, for example, the quartering is very, very, very prominent in journalism and media, yet he does not have a blue check mark.
Well, I have no idea in my life. I don't know who he is or what he does.
If you know anything about gaming or if you know anything about Gamergate or anything like that, that
Remember, you told me to stay away from it. I blame that on you
Stay
guys.
away.
You told me to stay
Stay
away.
away.
You told me to retreat.
Stay
I
away,
didn't
Ron.
know about it.
Order.
Stay away from it. Stay away from it.
So I want to touch on something else you mentioned in the beginning too,
Yeah.
kind of back on the topic, the conversations with Kiwis. You
Yeah.
said that you don't have anything to be worried or to be mad about regarding the lawsuit. You're not worried. It doesn't seem like you're worried about too much.
Not anymore. Yeah, no.
What about if the lawsuit comes back? So let's step outside of
Good.
whatever for the moment. What if it comes back? What if a charge or anything like that comes back against you?
What if any of the claims came back? I wouldn't be worried. Then cool, more discovery. They can try to find and get more information. Cool. Like that's the point when all this situation, even if one came back, right? That's part of the process where people think, oh, it's a win. So let's say hypothetically, and I'm not a lawyer, I might be spelling this out in the steps that might not be right. So we'll say one thing came back. We would have the right to appeal that one thing coming back. And then that would be a long process to go through. Then they would have the decision to see if it's remanded back to the court. Then if it goes back to the court, we'd have the opportunity to do some arguments and all this other stuff. And there's a whole process. But even in any of that, I am not afraid of additional discovery because then we get additional discovery in addition to that. And the thing is, where from the beginning, we haven't lied and we're not trying to hide anything. And so it's like, I'm not worried about one thing whatsoever, no matter how far it goes, no matter how deep they dig, because I know that there wasn't some conspiracy. We didn't lie. We didn't err. We didn't do anything, any issues. So that's why we can speak confidently and not necessarily have to or be forced into any level of negotiation because we know that we didn't do anything wrong. So I wouldn't care if everything came back. Cool. Let's continue on the lawsuit. You know what I mean? Like that's where it is in all this whole thing. It's like, I'm not worried no matter if it goes forward, it comes back, wherever it goes, and we'll just figure it out from there.
So let me ask this. When did you go from, because, there's obviously a point where we're worried about everything and freaking out. When did we cross that river? When did we go from being stressed out over this to this isn't that big deal anymore? Was it before?
After his deposition.
After the depot? Why that?
After his deposition, yes. And then that's where I started to, everybody was like, okay, it's over. And then it just got even more, it just kind of like snowballed after his deposition because in all things, there's always a concern like, oh gosh, what if one or two things come back and then we'd have to go to summary judgment, which then we knew we would win. From the beginning, we knew we'd always end up at the same place. It's just how quickly. And so after his deposition, we knew without question we would win the lawsuit. Now, would it be at initial TCPA or summary judgment? And then after the hearing where he was there and had to testify, it was like, bink, it's over. And then at that final hearing, it was cemented. It's done. And then seeing the documents that tie, like it just continues to get better for us, like snowballing. Now it's this big giant thing, like Willow, where it's game over down the hill. Like there's no chance of anything because of the horrible, just absolutely mind-blowingly bad work that was done on their behalf. But in essence, after that deposition where he admitted to most of everything in some level, might be quibbling over, well, he said this, but in the sense, he admitting all these things made it to where it's like we weren't worried whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah. So
also, that's fine. So I can understand where, the deposition makes you a little bit more relaxed because of whatever came out and disinformation and,
like
up until that point, it's just been papers back and forth and then talking with lawyers. And so really getting to, depositions are stressful.
Yeah.
It gives you kind of a footprint in the ground to say, oh, this is where things are going good or bad, kind of, at least to some extent. It's not always the marker, but it's a good place to kind of go from. Yep. Now, when I was talking about replying to the Kiwis and stuff, I think it would be helpful for you to like I said, engage in kind of a better manner. Like how I said I dealt with bullies is, I didn't get aggressive with them. I was honestly trying to do things what were in my power to help. So I'll teach you how to do this algebra problem, or I'll help you with this. I'm not doing it for you. You know,
Right.
where in the same respect, you can take the same, same actions and go, well, here's my side of it. And, you know, even if you get attacked, if people make fun of you, call you whatever, it's obvious they're trying to push your button.
Yeah.
People do that to me all the time.
Yep.
Sometimes it's for fun, sometimes it's not. You have to learn to let that wash over because that's done for the purpose. The
Right.
entire purpose of a bully is for that reaction. Like
Yeah.
I used to do in high school and middle school. If people would call my mom a whore,
Right.
I'd be like, I know she comes home late, she's always on the street corner.
Right.
Like, and I took back the, the control of it. I didn't let them have it.
You did that. I smashed a desk off their head and beat their shit in. You know what I mean? Like, so we had different approaches. Yours was definitely more logical and sane. I just did mine a little different.
And
Do
what
you
did
feel you
that?
still use those same approaches?
I mean, I haven't showed up at anybody's house.
No, but
It's
it
all-
sounds like you've had positions of anger or frustration that were
Oh,
pretty elevated.
Absolutely. When in my thing, when people would attempt to bully me and I would handle it. And so I never had an experience like where I almost lost an eye because they would try it and then very quickly get snuffed out. And so I feel bad for people that get bullied to the point where you had experienced it because that's horrible. I'm glad you took the power back by, switching it around. It's just different applications. And it is what it is,
Well, I think you said before that, you've been trying to for a long time address the aggression or the anger or that side of you, and it's been a long battle.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't
And
gone to anyone's house yet. I haven't done what I'm my
oh,
normal.
that's a good step. It's
Yeah.
good that you haven't. I'm not saying go track someone down and fuck them up.
I know.
But
It's very hard.
I'm-
It is a temptation. It is, but I
like
have.
define temptation. Like, is it just like a passing thought, or is it something where we have to go like really like think about and go, I really can't go do this because I'll get in trouble or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for some people it could be. I
Stages
mean,
of the lawsuit because it just depends.
okay. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, it depends on the person probably too.
Yeah, it depends on the person, depends on the situation. There's definitely been some thought. I'm just being transparent because, again, talk about the path. I feel like it's a huge win for me, the fact that I haven't gone to anywhere that I know where certain people live who try to bully me and make me feel scared and then make them feel an ounce of that fear. So it's a win. So for me, it's like if occasionally if I want to message, that's at least keeping me in a position where I haven't done anything bad. But I know that is a lot less expensive to litigate than a defamation case. It's about 40 grand. So
For what?
to litigate or to handle an assault case is only $40,000. So
How do you know that number?
I wonder if I asked.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yep, I know
My
I can do that.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Why?
Because at the beginning of this, I really, really was considering it because I didn't know how the internet worked. I thought everybody was crazy. And I'm like, if I was to just I know it's not good. I'm like, if I went to Minnesota and was to handle this shit, and what would happen? I'm like, oh, 40 grand.
Yeah, but Mr. Toye,
it's not good.
You have a respectable job. You have a kid.
Yeah.
You've got someone
I know
you really love.
Yes.
Why would you even contemplate that type of thinking?
Right. And that's the part where it's like just being transparent, what we're talking here, because in that moment, you want to stop the harassment, stop the bullying, stop it. Now I laugh at it. Looking back at it, I can be transparent with you guys and say, hey, yeah, I contemplated. I wanted to go beat the shit out of Nick several times. And actually, I think you guys might have seen it. I don't know if you did. There was a bot account that I thought it was Nick's, and it was like, let's set up an MMA fight. I was like, I will set this up. I will finance it. If there's a legalized way that me and Nick can get in a ring and I can fight that guy, I was like, I will do it for charity.
There technically is.
we can set up a charity boxing fight.
I mean, That's a great idea, Crumb.
Put it on
Or
it
not-
right
yeah,
now.
that's-
I would do it.
Oh, let's pick
I
a
don't know if
charity
I
and
don't
let's
know if
set
Nick
this
would be
shit
down
up.
for it, but, yeah.
I will be on the front row seat wearing a
I would
fucking
love
Ken Jennings mask, watching this. I don't care, or cosplay or something. I don't know at this point.
Brilliant for charity. Like, and the thing is, I honestly feel like if me and Nick, at the end of all this, because whatever it is, if me and Nick ever sat down and had a conversation, he probably would still be aggressive and be somewhat rude. But eventually, if given enough exposure to somebody, you'd start to find common ground. And not that he wouldn't hate me or maybe dislike me still, but I bet you eventually we wouldn't necessarily become friends, but he would not be able to be as visceral about me in the end.
I don't think, even though Nick, comes off pretty strong sometimes with his statements and his feelings,
Mhm.
I could see where he could have a legitimate hatred for you.
I
I've
almost
gone
want
back-
to take a stop, pause, and sort of listen to Nick screaming at us right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably screaming somewhere.
Yeah,
I can hear the echoes.
Like,
yeah,
like
you too, eh?
it would be fun to
Sorry.
do it. Like,
Sorry.
if he's down, I'm not kidding. When I say this, I tweeted back. I was like, I'm in, let's go. And then I found out it was a bot. I was like, our alt account.
It
Because
was probably a parody account. People
Yeah.
do that all the time.
But
I'm
it was-
technically a parody account. So.
I, mean,
Well,
I
think
doubt Nick would do it, but I mean, if we could appoint
maybe once
champions,
everything's done.
if we could
maybe
appoint
then.
champions, then maybe.
We've got a couple of wrestling belts around the house, don't we? We could have a belt.
We know someone that could get a wrestling ring really easily.
Oh,
I think it would be fun. Even if I
This is true.
lost, I don't care. Like, that's just
Knoxville.
like getting that out there. Just do it. I'm not afraid of losing. I better die because I will tire them with my ability to take shots and fight.
So
They've been abused their whole life. They know what time it is. It's like, good luck. I do not process pain the way normal people do. Let's go.
well,
If
then
you-
how do you process pain?
Huh?
Is that
I have a
both
very high-
physical or emotional?
No, physical. What I mean by that is a very high pain tolerance. And I think a lot of people who suffer from physical abuse growing up end up building up a pain tolerance because it's just part of survival. And so it's not something to be proud of. It is what it is. This is my part of my condition of my life. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it was like
Very.
that. And I'm sorry to hear that. I truly am. I don't ever
Yeah, me
like
too.
hearing that. I've worked in that and I don't.
it sucks.
It makes my skin crawl when I hear of or read cases or anything like that.
Where you-
Now,
It's all across your body, extension cords, blenders, guitars, throwing you downstairs, pulling your hair, punching you in the face, breaking your face. I mean, that's just a holiday. Never mind babysitters who lock you in your toy box for hours and stuff like that. So the myriad of physical abuses have happened. And here I am to this day, still alive, still kicking.
and you were able to get out of that. You've been working on
Yep.
improving from that.
Yeah.
Now, can you see where Nick would feel that kind of, I don't want to say seething hatred, but that like level of anger? Like,
Oh,
what
absolutely.
What do you think caused that from your side?
I think he wanted to defend somebody that he cared about. I don't know how he knows Vic, but in some essence, he felt that he was, and maybe in his opinion, being taken advantage of, or the process was wrong. He doesn't like Me Too movements, whatever. And so he was trying to stand up for a person that maybe he didn't know and go to war for them. And I totally understand it. And that's the part where it sucks. But at the same time, where anybody who's been in a real fist fight where there's disagreements, at the end of it, that negative shit is over, and then you can start to relate and start to communicate. Because I guarantee you, he built this idea of me in his mind, and the idea of Monica in his mind about this vicious, blah blah blah, all this shit. And so he's got this monster built up, or in his mind, whatever he thinks of me as like this minuscule cuck who wants to watch Monica get smashed by these guys, or whatever his mindset is that I see all the time. Whatever he wants to think, or whatever it is just this hypothetical specter that he's built up in his own mind. Whereas when we start to get on a conversation and communicate, he'll realize I'm a human being who has passion who wants to, speak and be heard, and he wants to speak and be heard, and he has passion. I disagree, he disagrees, but this is the part about communication and doing it with genuine intention, where I'm not here to try to capitalize on my communication with you guys. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not making any money off of any of it. It's just I'm communicating. I just want to be available. And I feel like honestly, if he were to just not even tell anybody what's happening, if he met up with me on a Sunday and we just spent 2 hours chatting, I bet by the end of it, not that we would be cordial, but I bet you he would have a different perspective about me and perception.
I think he would be open once this is all said and done. I don't think he'd be against it. I think just for whatever, protection of you guys, protection of both parties, just to not get involved specifically back and forth with you. I can see that.
Yeah.
But if, I was recently going back through, the original tweets and the original stuff from, how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the tweets I'm seeing from like you specifically, very targeted, very hostile. We're talking about, one of them here is specifically like, he's him being blacklisted and out of work. He is 56. Good luck with a rebound.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's just one. And, but now, we talk, what is it, 17 months later, I don't know now. We're talking about trying to improve and get back to work or do something different. So there is some change, it seems like, on your side of it.
So,
do you feel different from those tweets, or do you still like?
In a sense, there's a dichotomy there. And so what I say there, do I feel the same? In that moment back then, I agree 100% that, good luck with a rebound at 56 with all this drama attached to it, right? But now that we've gone through all the drama is over in a sense, right? Everything for the lawsuit is kind of at a standstill. We've got a response that'll be coming out soon to part of it. But then at essence from that, this could be 1 to 3 years from being over.
Yeah.
I don't like how long court processes take.
Oh, I don't either. Bull crap. Yeah.
And on top of that, Nick just said it'll take a very long time. It'll be really, really expensive.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, that part of it. And it's like, in part of the stuff that what sucks about some video that I saw the other day, or somebody sent me about from Nick, was talking about how none of these funds go to Vic himself. It goes to this process, right? Which is fine. But if you look at the same situation here, it is a very long process, right? And that's why I said, did it make sense to file this? Because if you go into it looking at what's it going to take to win, 60 minutes, right? Football game. You got to play to the whistle to whistle. And if you're looking at this, what is the longest term that this could, if it, say it hypothetically went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and that's what it was going to take through all the different levels of appeal, is that the highest and best use of your time and the considerable funds that were raised?
Well, let me jump in here for a second, because you mentioned that a couple of times. And the thing is that really comes down to it, that's Vic's prerogative.
Yes, absolutely.
So the thing is that us keep asking that question over and over and over again. It is pretty much a lost leader, because it comes back down to Vic. And the funny thing is that if the position was reversed, I think he would take it fully to the max as far as you would want to go with it. And at the same time here, I believe I could say unequivocally, I think Vic is trying to protect himself from all of this. And the thing is, the way he has to do this is basically going through this suit. And also one of the few things, if I'm not mistaken, and please, Crumb, correct me if I'm wrong here.
I always
Thank you. Didn't Vic mention that if people wanted to settle, there's an opportunity for that?
Well, there was. I think that we're a little bit beyond the point of that. And I mean, we've talked about this to death. So like, I don't really want to go down this road once again, because we're we're already over 3 hours, but in the first segment here. But I mean, talking about
there's so much to talk about.
Likening court to a football game is a perfect fucking example because you have 4 15-minute quarters. It's supposed to take 1 hour, and you're there for 5 because that's how long the game takes.
Breaks and some bullshit.
So true.
Knuckleheads 5.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I got absolutely.
Play.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff to dissect and a ton of stuff to talk about. I mean, ultimately, the lawsuit's a lawsuit. That's going to be determined regardless of what the hell we have to say about it. But like what we're talking about in the grand scheme of things about prerogatives, I do personally think if you were in Vic's situation, Ron, like regardless of everything else, regardless of what you've been told, I think that you probably would have taken the same path. You would have been fighting tooth and nail if this was somebody that you cared about. Like, again, hard to say, but putting yourself in a situation like that, you have to defend yourself. I think that we would all agree we would take a similar approach, fight tooth and nail to save our reputation, to save our loved ones, to save our livelihoods.
So it's interesting that you bring this up because I do have a friend that, and I'm not going to say their name, but I do have a friend that had some accusations that were brought up against them. And I communicated with them like, hey, don't go down the path of lawsuit. That is not going to be the thing. So in a sense where we talk about if you had a friend that had a similar situation where there's a lot of public attention to it, I already have the receipts in a sense what I would do if my friend got in that situation. And it was to vehemently and unequivocally, unabashedly tell them, do not try to use the legal system to clear your name because it is not the way you clear your name. And so I know, because I can speak from experience, what I would do in that situation because I did have that situation while in the middle of this lawsuit come up. And so I get why others might be upset, but it's like if we're having a hockey game and somebody shows up in Quidditch gear and a broom and it looks like the Monty Python people are about ready to storm the Bastille and they got their coconuts and their horse, like, this isn't going to be a fun hockey match. You know what I mean? And that's the part where all of this comes up. I already know what I would do if my friend came to me desperate, freaking out because they're losing jobs because they did. They're being told they couldn't work. That is the exact situation. And I know what I counseled them on. And so in this situation, it's not a hypothetical. I know where I would stand and I know what I would say and I know how I would support the person.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, Ken, you had something as well.
Yeah, I wanted to go down a little different path. I think this will be a fun thought experiment. And I think it's also important, too, because, I mean, the whole reason I'm talking to you is because I analyzed you. You know, however we got here, the path has been fun.
Right.
To say the least.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
Do you trust my professional ability? Do you question it much?
Skill, yes.
What's that?
I do agree that I believe that you have some skill.
Okay, so do you think I am an actual therapist? And you're not like just a random asshole, or?
I don't think you're a random asshole. I think you definitely are educated in that art. I don't know how experienced you are, but reading your evaluation, I think that you have some experience.
I have a master's degree, as I mentioned it. So.
That's awesome. Yes, so that's very evident that you have some experience there.
So, and we talked about before. You did have, did identify strongly with a couple things in my analysis and stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's good that you were open to recognizing that, not just shutting it off. A lot of people have, cast doubt on me or whatever, and I don't care. The persons I care about are in this conversation.
Right.
So that's the only opinions that matter. So if I told you after talking to you more and analyzing more, I thought there might be other things going on mental health wise, how would you feel about that?
I'd listen to what you'd have to say and evaluate it and figure out if I feel like that has weight or not.
Okay. So would you agree with my original statement that you meet the criteria for like antisocial personality disorder?
I think in the past I have.
Well, within the last, say, year and a half, 2 years, do you feel as though you're within those bounds? And you don't have to agree. It's just
No, I know I don't have to. No, not in the last year and a half.
okay. Because like I said, my analysis is based off of
Yeah,
not not past. It's recent. So while it factors in, it's a mild factor when compared to everything else.
right.
You know.
Well,
So one
to be
thing,
fair, Ken, you did make
okay,
that evaluation after reviewing court documents that were about my past, right?
no, that evaluation was made as a
So are you
template.
going to talk
No,
back the fact that you were talking about the remotes in there and all the
well,
interaction?
I bring up the remote because it comes up, and because the court docs were released a while ago. It's probably been 8 months, I think, at this point or
That was
more.
part
I
of your
think.
evaluation process, right?
Well, like I said in my evaluation, I didn't give much weight to you doing like physical abuse. Like I said, it was probably a very minor thing, or it was like you said, it was like I did it wrong and it snapped and it was too much.
Yep.
My
I was
concern
also
would be
verbally
like,
abusive.
what's that?
I said I was also verbally abusive. The threats were disdainable.
Yeah, and that's why I said my concern, if I'm looking at it from like the therapeutic side, I didn't, you know, I wouldn't look at you as such like a physical threat. Like I wouldn't, you know, initially. Like I could see it going there, but mostly it's potential emotional and verbal stuff.
Mhm.
And so that's where, it historically was there. And the way you've reacted and the way you've handled a lot of things has, concerned me.
Right.
And I've noticed some different uh, patterns of behavior that have
Mhm.
come out. And one of those things, and again, I'm working off of what I have, so
Yeah.
it's what it is. But would you feel as though, what's the best way to word this? Do you feel like you bear grudges or like hold things against people for a while, or like,
No, I really don't. Honestly, that's probably something that's weird about me. Like, I don't hold grudges. I don't think about it. It just kind of goes on.
well, I think you might have a grudge against Nick.
I mean, I was angry with him, but right now, if and I mean this with all sincerity, if Nick called me and was like, "Hey, let's go have coffee," I'd go have coffee with him, give him a shot, and chit chat, and give him the free space to be able to reestablish a relationship in any capacity. So I don't know if that would be fair to say I'd hold a grudge, because I feel like if I was holding a grudge, I wouldn't even give the opportunity for communication. But I would default to you. Like, what would you say in that situation?
Um, I think it's complicated to say the least.
Right.
I think
You
you
know,
could hold a grudge, but still, as an overall like matter, want to try and better things. Like,
mhm,
you know, I don't I don't hold grudges, and I don't think I have any currently. But
right,
like the one time I held a grudge, even while I was holding it, I was like, I don't like this. It feels
right.
wrong. It feels nasty. So, and fuck, I was probably late teens. So I mean, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But I've noticed several different like patterns of behavior that would, I don't think you would hit enough for like a clinical diagnosis, but
Mhm.
something along the lines of like paranoid personality disorder,
Fair.
say, because it requires 4 of the 7 criteria to meet. And like I said, I don't know if I have enough to meet it, you
Right.
know? So,
Yeah.
and I think through your actions, recently you've been, again, taking you good faith that you're being open and honest,
Yeah.
so you've kind of negated some of the criteria on it, because I've got it pulled up right here,
Mhm.
you know, but there is one thing, and I gotta find it. It's just this stupid PDF. It's so hard to navigate through. This shit's like 1,000 pages.
Can you do like
Um,
Control G and find it, or Control F?
I have it bookmarked, but there's a book, like I have each diagnosis bookmarked. It's
Right.
just the bookmarks are, well, there's so many references to each other diagnosis. So like, for example, depression can be not only in its section, but there's each diagnosis has like a differential diagnosis section. So it talks about that. So trying to just search, you'll find like 500 words.
Yep.
So if I could just search depression, it's going to take fucking forever to find.
Yep.
So I guess while I'm searching for this, if you guys have any thoughts for the moment, I can't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, ultimately, I think regarding the stuff with Vic and all that stuff, like, yes, you've said it in the past about Ty. If Vic chose different counsel, then you would have a different feeling on this. Like, I mean, I can't imagine being happy or friendly about the idea of being sued. Period.
Right.
I mean, like, I regardless of who was doing it, I don't think I would have a very good time. So, like, I don't know. I think I don't know if it's the frustration that's misplaced and whatever else, and like, obviously you're getting some kind of joy out of tearing apart Ty's typos and things like that. And
Yes.
I mean, like, it is what it is. Like, from what I understand from lawyering, they aren't scholars in terms of writing stuff properly or using
it properly. But the reason why it is because I know how important this case is to each side, right? And while I don't want to be in a lawsuit, I also knew very well how important and impactful each thing that I was saying could be. So while everybody was threatening, you could be sued, I knew Nick was out here threatening, like, you could get sued. I knew the weight of everything I was tweeting, right? And so the part of why it's so frustrating is, and why I say it would be better if it was with another person or a professional attorney that wouldn't have conducted themselves in the way that he did. Because I understand the reason why he filed the lawsuit. I get the emotional position to file.
Well, let's be fair. We've seen some really horrific lawsuits in the past like 2.5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, Vic could have had a lot worse. Like, he could have had. I don't remember who the heck it was, but the person that basically told State Farm that they were gay boys or whatever else like that.
That's but he did have his attorney say he could put a bullet in someone's eyes and sleep like a baby the next night, which is kind of scary.
Was that Landau that said that? I don't remember. I might be.
Are you talking about Ty or something?
No. There was another lawsuit that.
I meant what Ron said.
Oh yeah, Ty said that. He said if somebody got in the way of him being able to make a living, he would put a bullet between their eyes and sleep like a baby the same night.
I mean, to me, that just sounds like the stereotypical Texan. But
oh no, I agree. But at the same time, in the middle of a lawsuit,
there we go.
Where
what are you doing, Crumb?
Man has a grenade on his desk, so like I was stuck with him.
Have you finished with your tumbleweeds and cowboy boots?
I was at the lawsuit, and he ran like a baby hiding style. Whenever I wanted to have a chat with him, because I wanted to find out if he really wanted to talk in the fucking parking lot, because he said he'd like to handle shit there. And you know where he was? Little fat ass running away. But that's just my own maybe negative side, all this other stuff. But Ty speaks like somebody who wants to be somebody who isn't afraid of confrontation, but clearly is not equipped to handle that situation.
Yeah, Chris Hook was the lawyer I was talking about, the guy that was telling State Farm that they were gay boys.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Shit, man, that was so good.
Practice, like, yeah.
Well, why shouldn't he be able to practice if he does that though?
So if somebody's willing to stoop to the level of insulting somebody like you're gay boys, they're not understanding the bigger concept and the importance of the position that they're in. So I honestly feel like lawyers have a duty not only to represent their clients in a level that is, important, but also to represent the state that they're licensed in. So in a sense, if I'm willing to call somebody a gay boy, and that is a derogatory term, what is my character? Am I truly representing the state in a way that is bringing justice and neutrality and all these things that the law is supposed to represent? Am I honestly and vigorously defending clients with the best intention when I'm looking at and calling somebody and have the capacity to degrade them to the point that they think that gay boy is an insult. Like, why is that an insult? Why is it something against him? Maybe that's just fundamentally it shows a position. And that's where, for me, it's like powerful. It's like, who is this man? Is this somebody who should be a lawyer, who should represent people, who should be making the laws? Because if this person is the one representing it, it's a microcosm of a bigger picture.
Well, and I think the New York judge, I think the New York judge that had Chris Hook in there would agree with you, because he got sanctioned into oblivion for that one. So.
Good. It's like, here's the tax for the gay boy saying, buddy, here, go be 1927 in the corner and cry.
So, I think, on the topic of kind of segueing away from what we were talking about for a bit, but like insults and stuff, like, for example, gay boys, I think that's one of the problems I have with like society at the moment, is the complete degradation and destruction of dark humor, effectively. I've been in, like I said before, emergency services, so I've dealt with the traumas of that. What I do now, you have to like make jokes like that effectively. It's a requirement almost to really process. What's that?
Are you saying that you have to make gay boy jokes?
What I mean is, for example,
no, Ron.
Like, you have to make gay boy jokes. We have now put that in law. That is now effective.
Part of the Constitution.
It's a constitutional amendment now.
It's definitely gross. Yeah.
Well, I agree. I think it's all context based, right? So, for example, I have a friend. One of my best friends is a lesbian, right?
Yeah.
And I'll joke with her, and I'll tell her, be like, "Oh, this shit's gay," and I'll be like, "No, bad gay, not good gay."
Right.
Like, it's Chris.
How do you feel about a good gay version and a bad gay version? What is your feeling on this?
Well, like when I grew up, like shit, that shit's gay. That was like,
right. I know. I grew up in a time period where I've literally used that term. That's gay.
And so
I probably use it without thinking. But is that the way humans should evolve? Is being so careless with our words that we don't think about how somebody would receive them. And that's what I'm talking about professional. Like, I can do better. So I'm trying actively to get that out of my lexicon, because it was something taught to me. I was taught at one point that this is an acceptable joke, but that doesn't mean it should continue forward, because the heart of the kid or the person who hears that, who overhears the conversation, hears gay, that's gay, then they associate that gay equals wrong or gay equals awkward, and gay is not awkward. It isn't wrong. It's something that for them is beautiful, and it's intentional, and it's something that should be celebrated. So I don't want to be the guy who takes it lightly that I make a joke that maybe could offend somebody, and maybe that's snowflake or whatever, but I'd rather be a snowflake and honor somebody's choice than potentially hurt it. And while I fail at a lot of things, because the other day I used the word retarded and I felt guilty afterwards. It racked me. I was like, oh fuck, I said that word. I need to not use that.
Why are you so guilty about it though?
Because I should not have used it, because there are people who are mentally retarded that could hear that when I'm like, it's retarded. In Massachusetts, everything retarded, right? It's not. I shouldn't say that. And even though retard can also not necessarily mean for mental capacity, it can be for holding anything back or not being fully capable, but it
has other uses.
Be better about,
Well,
the English language is a really ridiculous thing. I mean, like,
yeah. But even that can be offensive.
Well, when I mean like the whole dark humor thing or like offensive humor, like I'll use, if you grab a list of all the offensive words that are out there, I've probably used all of them and modified them in some form or fashion, right? Because I'm a human. It's part of being it. But I also know when it's appropriate or not, or what the point of it is. Like, I joke with my friend, good gay, bad gay.
Right.
I use it in the right, areas. Like, I wouldn't do that at work, clearly.
Right.
But, I could do that with friends.
Right.
When I was a firefighter. What's that?
This is where it gets into that weird thing, and I don't want to go down it. It's just imposing it. At one point when you're saying that, when would be the bad gay? And this is where it's fun to do this with people that are safe, because this is where it challenges even fundamental paradigms of that mindset in that moment. In your mind, there might be a point where gay is bad because you're like, oh, not good, the good gay, not the bad gay. Well, what's the bad gay?
Well, good gay is like, obviously just like being gay or whatever. Bad gay is like people doing stupid shit that pisses you off. That's
Right.
bad gay. Like you
Right.
did something dumb. That's gay. That's bad gay. Like that's the difference,
Right.
and it's spelled out to where the term gay in this context isn't talking about specifically homosexuals or lesbians. It's talking about people doing stupid shit or whatever.
Right.
So that's where like bad gay means what it means. So,
Right.
So
but
it
when
comes
we-
back down to contents and timing.
Right.
yeah, they're so critical.
Right.
You
And
know.
that is huge. Yes.
Well,
But
I know we're coming up to probably the end of the first segment here. So,
yes.
did you have any other pressing questions that you wanted to ask there, Ken?
I did find the thing I was gonna talk about. I found it finally.
Perfect.
I'll try to make this brief.
No worries.
So, one thing I've noticed, Ron, and so like I said, I pay pretty close attention to the thread on the forums because it's one of the few fun outlets I get during my day, and
It is fun.
It's interesting to see how people react on the forums in general. So that's why I'm there to begin with. But I've noticed how you handle a lot of the stuff about the lawsuit. It fits into a very specific pattern. And like I said, I don't know if this one too would also cross the threshold. And I don't, I don't want this to come off in an offensive manner, right?
No,
I'm not,
it's out there.
and I'm not saying what I'm about to say as a way to demean you. It's truly for kind of a thought process analysis.
Yeah.
Is, when I read the diagnosis I'm reading right now, I'm gonna hold off on naming it for a second. I've seen behaviors that fit within it.
Yeah.
Whether or not it actually applies is where it becomes, I would need more information.
Right.
But, there are things where, here I'm looking at the first page or whatever, that I feel are things that you may have done within the last 16 or 17 months or so.
Sure.
And, where is it? Sorry,
Did you
just
see my
giving-
test results? I took some test that Crest suggested, and I sent. I
Exactly
believe.
that Ken suggested. Ken sent it to me.
I did. I saw that.
Did
I need
or
to
what
find
kind of potato am I?
What's that?
Which house am I in? Am I Slytherin or am I Ravenclaw? Because I'm already pissed off about the decision that they put me in unjustly.
Let me see if I have that. I actually think I have that somewhere. But I did see that test.
I'm
And
pissed.
because the test I sent you was it's one of the most clinically valid tests
Yeah.
that are out there. It's been tested over and over. Oh, here we go. I have your results. So I think this is.
Please say.
Here's your test results.
Slytherin.
What's that?
I was joking. I said, please say Slytherin.
So your test results were not what I was expecting.
Ravenclaw.
Nah, I don't know. I'm not the sorting hat. I can't do that much.
Well,
But,
they
you know,
lied to me in Ravenclaw.
You did score higher on extroversion and higher on emotional stability and agreeableness. And I would agree with the agreeableness. You've been able to talk, and we've very rarely in the discussions we've had like hit a point where there's some major conflict. It's easy to work with you. You are pretty outgoing, so I'd agree mostly with the extroversion side of it. And I'm sure this applies in your work too because of what you do. Conscientiousness, you scored like really, because there's the two sides of it. Like, the ability to conscientiousness was pretty good score, and intellect and imagination. And intellect and imagination is also openness to experience too, which I also agree because that's another reason you're here. So I was actually surprised by your results. I still need to read through the disc one you sent me because it was multiple pages, and it was trying to process it because I need to go through and read it.
It's long.
yeah, and read all the things from it. But I was really impressed by the results of your test. It was an interesting test.
Right.
Um, but back to what I was talking about is, there's been a few times where either myself or 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 Crumb or Mr. Hop or maybe even other people have pointed out things to you that don't fit with reality in a
Right.
way, like evidence or things like that about what have happened, and you very, very strongly will not cede ground to that. And so part of me almost has the concern whether there's a type of like again the clinical term like a delusion going on as far as
Associated disorder or something
what's that?
like disassociation.
I don't know about I don't know. I'd have to go back and think about that. I didn't put that on you, but my my thought of this is because of because you are coming on to have these discussions, but
Right.
when there's a lot of challenge to certain things about the lawsuit or about what's happened, is you're very reluctant to give up ground on it,
Hmm.
and you're stuck in a mindset that won't bend in effect. And to
Right.
me, that there's indications of almost a delusion there. And that's not saying you're delusional. It's saying that, and it's also possible with being dug in this for so long and you're getting your stuff from your side and everyone's getting, it's possible it's just that. That's
Right.
why I try to do what I can to like read through the documents,
Yeah.
actually pull up the citations, which is a pain in the ass to
Yep.
do it
Yes.
because there's so much shit to read
Yep.
and my time is limited.
Hmm.
But so, like I said, I wouldn't. Again, I don't know if I could say you'd be clinical for it, but I would say that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if we'll talk again. Like I actually have enjoyed these conversations. They're fun. I do
Absolutely.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, but to think about that, and also think about that as how it applies to your conversations on the farms.
Yeah.
If you continue to do that, you
Right.
know, am I really right? You know,
Right.
see, seed ground for a minute and actually do the thought experiments. Take the other side
Hmm.
and work through it. If, like I tell people, if you can successfully argue your opponent's side, you are more comfortable in your own argument. So if
Right.
you could come on this stream next time and give a very strong argument why Vic would be able to succeed in this case, you would be very comfortable in your own argument.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
that's something to think about. Try it. You can do it with yourself.
Yeah.
Write it down or talk it out and, and think that through and see if that applies. You
Yeah.
know, like I said, I don't want to say that it applies, but it was something that popped out as a concern. Just thinking about it. I don't like to sit here and psychoanalyze and this. It can get, you know, kind of redundant at some point.
Yeah.
But again, I just the whole reason I started this in the first place, that we first started this, I just have some concerns, and I just want to make sure that like for example, myself, my views on it could be one way or the other.
Right.
It's not about that for some of this. Some of this
Right.
is really, and that's part of this back and forth we've had, is think about the different facts that have actually happened. Think about the other side. Think about your own side, how they actually intertwine,
Right.
because they don't, because there's things that I thought I was confident in this lawsuit and in this situation
Right.
that I thought I had memorized the timeline or I thought I had memorized this information. I forgot a bit.
Right.
I've got like a cheat sheet of the different things to try and help. I have like a Google Drive full of liquid documents. I
Right.
go reference, and it helps for things like this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's upsetting to be heard that I'm potentially calling you delusional, but you know,
Yeah.
how,
I mind it.
how you felt about talking with me? I know you've talked to Mr. Crumb and Mr. Hop. How do you feel with talking about me. You know, that's probably.
I'm okay with talking with you, and just talking about this subject there. You know, part of it is, you know, just in our discussion now that we've talked on the, like, kind of what I was talking about when you confront somebody. So when you put out the initial response, it offended me, but then I wanted to hear your side, right? So as soon as someone said there was an opportunity, because I didn't know if I'd ever get a chance to chat with you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're an anonymous human on Twitter. And even though like your voice sounds very familiar, like I've had a conversation with you somewhere, it's
Maybe you have.
I know you sound like I know, I feel like I've talked to you at some point in my life. But either way, it's like, I wanted to hear you out, because no matter what, if I ever feel like I've arrived somewhere, then I've failed. And so like, if you're seeing something that I need to address, even though I might disagree and still continue, it's still planting a seed of like, hey, maybe I need to address some things, right? Same thing with Crest, same thing with Mr. Hop. Like, I listen. And because the best way to get real evaluation is not the people who are telling you yes all the time. It's the people that are challenging you. I don't give a shit about the people who tell me I'm great and awesome, because those people are just telling me that because they think I want to hear it. I want to hear where I'm fucking up. I want to hear where I can get better. Whether I agree with it or not, I'd rather hear that than hearing people tell me what I want to hear, because I can't grow that way. And so that's part of this whole process.
Way to look at it.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look.
I at first was upset with you, and now it's like, cool, you did your thing, you wanted to put your thing out there, and it's fair, and you know, you made your opinion, and now I have no problem. Like, honestly, if anybody ever tried to mess with any of you three, I would have the same passion to protect you guys as I would have any of my closest friends. And I mean that. And even though we don't stand on the same ground, I promise you, try it. Let somebody try to mess with one of you three, and I'll go to war. And that's just part of it, because it's just my nature. And I really do appreciate all of you guys giving me the opportunity to connect. And we're connecting more and just chatting. It's not that you have to, either of us have to believe any side. It's just allowing people to be humans. And I really do value it.
All right. Cool.
All right. Well, I think it's a pretty good spot to end this segment on. So we're going to call it here for the stream. We'll bid adieu to the audience for this particular one. I'll ask everyone to hang around for a little bit after. We'll talk for a bit and then get to the next part there. So thank you so much for the audience. I know we have so much to talk about. We'd probably talk for hours and hours and hours on it.
You could continue.
Like, honestly. But
Whoa, is that the time that's gone by? Wow.
It goes so fast, man.
It goes by so quickly. Yeah. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate all of you. But for now, we'll bid you adieu, and we'll keep you guys around. Ken and Ron, thank you guys so much for hanging around. We'll keep you guys for just a minute. But for the chat, keep your stick on the ice, and bye-bye.
Support each other. See you guys around on the block.
Yes.